Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to episode 112 of the Stevie Richards Show. We're going to get right into it. We have a mix of fan questions as well as news. I don't know if I have the big mustache this week. There won't be story time with Stevie, but let's turn it over to the person that created that awesome thumbnail, my co-host, James Romero.
Well, I can't take all the credit. That's pretty. We've got a couple of notes before we get into this. Should we just do this? Should we get into the notes? One, it wasn't Clayface on Batman. It was a very niche baddie that I seem to have this weird memory of, and it was Falseface that debuted in the comics in like 58 and then in the 60s Batman and not very much afterwards, apparently.
Yeah, the first line of the page, because we searched for it. We thought, but by the way, when you showed me the picture, now I'm going to have nightmares at 54 years old based on False. I could see why. And it was beautiful that the production company put that actor behind that plastic mask, because then anybody, if this guy wants too much money, we'll get somebody else in that. But yeah, it was pretty scary. But the first line when we searched for it was what?
It's often confused with Clayface.
Not to be confused. Talking directly to me, not to be confused with Clayface. So our bad on that. Once again, this show admits when we get things wrong, which we know we do.
Secondly, we did want to do a what went wrong with Matt Cardona and the triceps tear, but it was excised from the main event episode that WWE released, and there's, best I can tell, no fan footage of it either. So we don't actually know what happened. And I even went on Cage Match, and it's not listed who he wrestled. But apparently it happened there.
That's a very weird thing. Usually it just, got to blur them all. You still don't like that joke, but I'll still keep saying it. Is it just as bad the second week?
Oh, worse.
Got to cut it all? Got to cut, I don't know. You got me, brother. At least that one still works. But yeah, Matt, please get well soon. Please recover pretty quickly. Tricep or any kind of muscle tear is a pretty serious thing. So hopefully you'll recover very, very quickly. And hopefully when you come back, you'll get the proper reset and the proper vignettes and all that stuff for your character. This hopefully will be something that starts as a bad thing, but ends up being maybe the best thing for him creatively.
Well, triceps tears, if it requires surgery, you could be looking at 8 months. It's a big old recovery time.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, there's certain tears, even when you get it surgically repaired. And if you don't, there's going to be obviously certain indentations and stuff. I have a little bicep thing. I have a little bicep anyway. So it was a small tear no matter what. But with surgery, you would hope that he'll be able to get them back. And hopefully there's you never know with those things, because obviously we just watched the Paul Orndorff Dark Side of the Ring. And I think what went wrong based on the pile driver that everybody thinks did it, that injury that when he gave it and slammed the back of his head, we have a clip going up on that, or it might already be up by the time the episode's up. You just don't know what kind of nerve damage or anything that's going to end up staying with Matt. So one thing I would say, and this is very hypocritical right here, make sure you get enough rest and don't overtrain. So I admit that I would probably overtrain.
Oh, well, he tore his triceps on Friday and then did legs on Saturday.
Yep, that's what I would do. And speaking of legs, you didn't even know you had a great segue with that. I'm pretty proud of myself before you pitched the fitness channel and everything. This morning, and I was terrified, was the first day in a very long time because I'm resetting everything, going back to basics. I have a brand new rack in the garage gym. And today with Wendler 531 was squat day, was leg day. The first time I put a barbell on my neck to do squats. They were bench squats, and it was very, very light, almost like a deload week, but I was very proud of myself to have good form, take my time and brace my core to make sure my herniated disc doesn't go into that. I know it's a wrestling show, but I'm pretty proud of that. I'm getting ready for when we meet so I can be in the best shape of my life.
Oh, I didn't work out at all this weekend. Just had a few drinks. Went to an American-style restaurant as well. Two evenings ago. So if you weren't having the watermelon salad, you were eating just absolute grease.
What did you get? Like comfort food?
Yeah, I just got beef burgers. So I thought, if nothing else, you can do worse than that.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Trust me.
Yeah.
I was going to say too that I was going to print your picture out and do it in and try to see if we can make it as part of a skit for an ad. Which, by the way, everybody really did like the Bear Mattress ad, the skit.
Hmm.
We have
Well, there's
another
another
one
one coming
planned.
today as well. So if you didn't see
Yeah,
it last week, it's coming again this week.
we're gonna beat you over the head like WWE does with stuff. Well, but that's part of an agreement. But I'm going. I wanted to do a thing for the cold open when we finally meet up in person in September to be training and then do the Rocky Four thing, which you have seen Rocky Four, right? You haven't seen
I have
three.
seen that one. Yeah.
I
There's
want to
no
go
easy
up.
way out, Stevie.
Yeah, I know. And Hearts on Fire. I know the deal. So who are you talking to? Come on, man. Like, I play Rocky. I can't wait for it to come out. But I'm purposely growing the beard out even more, like in the Rocky Four training montage. And I'm going to reach up for the mirror with your picture on it and just crumple it up before we go to meet.
I'm growing my beard out as well.
We had this discussion about beards.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying
is this
I'm
just like
6
me
months
shaving?
in.
Is this like me shaving my head and everything,
Yes.
cutting hair? Okay.
I think it might be something like that. I don't think we're changing anything too drastically there. Okay, let's do the intro because we've got loads of fan questions, loads of everything to go through. I've got a channel, James Romero. Go hunt that out if you really want to. Chase Brogan and Stevie are working together, collaborating on various videos, including tech stuff as well as some gaming things as well from the AKI publishers of the old WWF games, No Mercy and stuff of that ilk, where you want to do the 80s one or the Superstars one, where it's got Hulk Hogan and Mr. Perfect and everything else like that. Because those models look really good. I think you should have a look.
Yeah, we're getting into more of those mods. I didn't even realize there were so many. The more I talk to Chase when we try to plan these videos, we find that. But also, Chase is a huge racing sim fan, and I'm a flight sim fan, but I want to get in the racing sims. So we might be getting a couple of those cockpit setups actually where you can hang the TV and mount it. And no, you're going to show me something to make me see.
I am going to
What
show
is
you
that?
something. So a friend of mine, he runs. I always call them light gun losers, but I can't remember. It's like one of the biggest light gun Facebook pages ever, and it's Light Gun Legends or whatever it is. So anyway,
Light gun losers. I don't think
yeah, I can't remember the real name. So it's
Lord.
called the Light Gun Losers.
What a friend you are.
Yeah. So he sent me that and said, any chance you want this Mario Kart? I'll show it for you as well. Any chance you want this Mario Kart
God.
sim thing? He's got two of them and he's getting rid of one because he's like banging to pinball. So he's replacing that with a pinball machine. And I was like, I've got nowhere to put it. And he said, I'll do you a really good deal if you want it. And like my wife just said, where are you going to shove it? Really? Is he going to live in the garden? But it's not an original. It's it's
Like
one
a
of these main
version?
things.
Yeah,
It's
like
a cabinet
replica.
version and a main thing, so you can get all the different races on it. But it's like, have you ever played the newer Mario Karts on the arcade versions? Because they bear almost no resemblance to the console versions.
No, I haven't. I've seen them. I've played a lot of Daytona USA and other ones that whole setup where the whole wheel and the screen and everything are. But no, I was going to say you have a Switch too with your Pocopia.
Yeah, kind of just giving up on it a bit. It's like I need more direction, man.
But the Switch 2, which is going up in price in probably a week or so, so I might have to pull the trigger on it. You can buy for 500. There you go. You can buy for $500 one of 3 games in the bundle, which one of those is Mario Kart, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Mario Kart World, but I think you have to get used to it. My brother's got it, and he said you kind of got to get used to it because there isn't like the regular tracks, or there are, but like there's more open world. So one thing I like about the Switch 2 is that you can just disconnect it a lot easier than the old one instead of like having to do the slot thing.
It's magnetic, right?
Yeah, but it's also got a clip in as well there. But I like I'm a big Nintendo fan, but I just didn't think I'd ever play it, and that's kind of been born out that I've only played it twice since I bought it like 3 weeks ago.
What's funny is that everybody's forgotten about the Sony physical media thing already. Started the pre-orders for GTA 6 and all the art. Everybody's like, "This is great
dude,
now."
Do you care? I like someone texted me yesterday and it's like, "Dude, GTA 6, what are you keeping up with it?" It's like, I don't care. It's taken way too. It's like The Last of Us 2. I loved The Last of Us, and then they waited like 8 years for a sequel. I was like, "Dude, you missed the zeitgeist here," and I just couldn't even get through it. And then it's GTA 6.
But then they fill it in saying we have a remastered version of Last of Us as if that was a game in the middle that was new between both of those.
Why don't you try like 3 different versions of the remaster of the original? They just... I don't know what Naughty Dog are doing. I mean, they make quality, obviously, but man, they can churn out more than a game a decade in the series. Like, I'll say no one cares. I'm sure someone cares about Jak and Daxter. But come on now. Last of Us was like their bread and butter. It should have been. And they just wait way too long with that. Series is good, though.
You know what you're doing right now?
What?
You're going to make people comment for a gaming channel with us once again.
Yeah, but I'm not... You're way more suited than me.
Way more suited than you. How do you figure?
Because I just don't know that much about games. I just don't play enough.
I don't play enough right now either. You can never play enough. Got to catch them all. Got to play them all. That's another joke there. You and I
you got to play them all.
All right, let's go to the fan questions. You got to pitch more.
The very best. No one ever was. That's a banger of a tune. Come on. I'd do that karaoke.
In Heaven or I'm Your Man, but yeah.
Could you blow your voice out and do the Savage album?
I could blow my voice out just doing the show without doing a Savage album. It's borderline right now. We're like 11 minutes in. It's already borderline. So,
well, okay, we'll get on with it then. Fitness, Stevie Richards Fitness on YouTube. Go follow him there. There's also the Cameo as well. I've given up on telling Stevie to raise the price, but for your $30, it's $30, isn't it?
Right now, it might go
$30. Well, watch out for 2048 when the price eventually goes up and catches up with inflation, which it won't. But he gets 5 stars across the board because he endeavours to give satisfaction like Jeeves does to Bertie Wooster with his actions and giving nature with all these cameos, and gives you way more and does way more research on you than anybody else, especially for that price range as well. Go treat yourself to a cameo today. And of course, the Stevie Richards Show Patreon, which last week we watched Penta versus somebody?
Chad
Gable. And this week we watched
Tony Garea versus Greg Valentine with Grand Wizard and as the manager, Dick Worley, somebody I met on the Indies, the referee, and Vince McMahon calling everyone Mister on commentary. Then we got some musical numbers for a bonus watch along that we're going to release after this Monday's watch along, and that will be 2 songs: Hulkster in Heaven, Hulk Hogan, and I'm Your Man, Roddy Piper, who missed the punching bag, and James pointed out what went wrong segment.
Stevie has never heard of Hulkster in Heaven. Or heard of it, but never heard it.
I heard the Wembley Stadium story. That never gets old.
Yeah, that smelly boy who died in Wembley. Unbelievable.
Stevie Richards.
Just trying to get clicks.
You're nobody. You weren't ever anybody.
Stevie Richards. Don't be speculating, man. I'll run up on it.
I get punks like the great Stevie Richards. Stevie, what's his name?
Hack, click prostitute.
My little finger is bigger than his neck.
The most absolutely preposterous critique.
Stevie!
No! Oh. I need a new mattress. Ever since switching to Bear mattress, I've experienced a major improvement in comfort level, support, and quality, especially compared to my previous mattress. Also, it's helped reduce aches, pains, stiffness, and discomfort in my lower back, and my back has taken just a little bit of abuse during my wrestling career. I have had the Bear Elite Hybrid mattress for a few weeks and absolutely love it. Make sure to add the Cool Force upgrade, which is what I did, for an extra layer of active cooling relief, especially if you're a hot sleeper like me. Bear delivers your mattress right to your door with free shipping throughout the United States. Plus, Bear mattress includes a 120-night sleep trial, ensuring a perfect fit for your sleep needs. They also come with a limited lifetime warranty for complete peace of mind and also no sleepless nights. If you're looking to get the best sleep for your active lifestyle, head to bearmattress.com/Stevie Richards Show and use the code Stevie Richards to get 40% off your Bear mattress today.
All right, let's get straight into it. Questions. These are from an old batch of questions. I'm going to be releasing a post fairly soon on the YouTube channel, so if you're not subscribed to us on the YouTube channel, please do. And then you will get a post at some point in your feed inviting you to reply to that post with your questions, and they'll make it, hopefully, if they're good, into a future episode of the Stevie Richards Show. That's what everybody here has done. And the first one is from not that one, because you didn't want that one to ask. So we'll go straight on to Mike Frost. Can you name your best and worst wrestling commentators? Now, we're going to stick on with the best for now, because there's a story with the worst, but best regular announcers, best color commentators, Stevie.
Okay, so let's start with best play-by-play guys. So that would be, and we're talking kind of in your own way. I don't want to rank it because you're talking about like the top 3, top 5. Top 5 would probably be where we can go and even beyond that. But man, they each have their own style and their own way of being the best at what they do. So it's tough to say someone's better than another when you're talking about the best, because there's a Mount Rushmore with this. I would say Vince McMahon during his heyday was amazing as play-by-play, while also playing the promoter and being biased, but still being play-by-play. Very, very much a lot of energy and charisma, and really made you believe the characters when he talked about them, because obviously he was creating the characters, which we didn't know when he was a commentator. Not the early, like Tony Gurria versus Greg Valentine. He sounded like an old-timey baseball commentator with that. But right up there with Vince is JR. Jim Ross was just amazing in NWA/WCW. He was great in UWF, actually, before they merged with the NWA and then WCW was formed. I would also say Joey Styles is up there, and I am a bit biased, but I would put it this way. Joey Styles, for most of his tenure in ECW, never had another commentator, never had anybody to play. It was basically a one-man show, and he could really just get the characters over, the storyline over, be the mix between the official play-by-play guy and a fan. That was really awesome. That's 3 right there. Who else would I say as far as play-by-play? I'd still have to say, in a way, Tony Schiavone was decent to very good. I would say this is going to shock people. The WWE run, the WWF run back then when he was commentating with Jesse was really, really good. Even him and David Crockett. David was really more like a super fan. But I'm saying these were 2 play-by-play guys at the same time. There was no wrestler commentating. I think Tony really shined back in the old NWA as well.
Where does TNA rank for you?
Where's TNA rank? TNA ranks up there kind of with what I am here. Think about it. TNA's a lot more. He would obviously, when he came into WCW, the Professor Mike TNA would very much be somebody that would educate people on Lucha Libre and other more technical aspects of that, which I always appreciated. Now you're asking about Mike TNA and TNA with Don West as color commentator. I don't know if I put him in the top 5, but he's definitely in the top 10. I would say we'll get a little spoiler. Don West is a heel commentator. Whoa, man, that was some of my, and selfishly, he would get the Dr. Stevie character over, but because he was always a cynical, sarcastic, friendly guy, not mean, but you could see the personality backstage. And when that came out on commentary, it was really awesome.
I'm thinking, were there any commentators from Territory days or whatever that you just enjoyed listening to? Because obviously commentary these days is completely different to what it was years ago. I mean, I think a lot of people will say Lance Russell, of course. A lot of people are going to say...
Gordon Solie,
of course. There are a couple that come up here and there. Bob Caudle, who was just the voice of Charlotte for decades, as well as Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
And he was teamed up with Johnny Weaver, who was a former wrestler in a commentary team.
Kent Walton, World of Sport. He was solo commentator for decades. He was great. But the thing is like Dutch loves Kent Walton. And as far as solo commentators go, Joey, Kent Walton, Vince McMahon called a lot of matches solo in the earlier days as well, who I think he did a really good job.
All-Star Wrestling, all that stuff back then.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some...
who was the main commentator? I remember Ken Resnick would do some commentary up in AWA, and then he was interviewing WWF. Who was the main commentator again in AWA? Because that was he had the real kind of kind of old-timey voice in AWA. Who was that commentator?
Ah, right. It's not Stanley Blackburn. What's his name? It's going to bug me. Promoters, contributors. Lord James
He had
Blaze.
a very deep, he had an old-timey kind of radio voice too.
Lee Marshall in the late days.
Lee Marshall was a good color commentator, or a good play-by-play, I should say. I'm sorry.
Not Larry Nelson, is it?
Larry Nelson he commentated some stuff, but he was a backstage interviewer as well. He was the main AWA guy. Who was it?
Ron Trongard.
Yeah, I think that was him. Real like, hey, here we come, Nick Bockwinkel. And I don't know, it's Tony Garea. You know who else I don't know why I liked him, but it fit the identity, was Mark Lawrence in World Class. Had a very subdued type of, very, very like matter of fact, kind of straight man type stuff where if he had the color commentator with him, it would stand out. But Lance Russell was good. Dave Brown was good in Memphis. For Weatherman, he was good. So there's a lot more play-by-play guys, which is super, super duper important to have a really quality. And Joey proves that you can have the play-by-play guy can mix in biases and still put out a quality commentating product.
Best color commentators for you?
Number one's got to be Jesse in his heyday.
I'm sorry, we forgot Gorilla Monsoon. Where does he rank?
Oh, Gorilla. Oh, geez. How can we forget Gorilla? I'm sorry. So there we go. So you know what I mean? Like, we're naming these names, so the ranking isn't really, or tier list isn't really a thing during this. But these, Gorilla, would you stop? High Rent District, all these different things. Him and Jesse together were amazing. That was magic right there. Him and Heenan. And that's what I mean. Like, Gorilla, now that you mentioned it, there was a rotating, subset of color commentators that were their personalities that Gorilla with Jesse, Gorilla with Bobby Heenan, obviously became best friends. And remember when Heenan paid tribute to Gorilla Monsoon after he passed away on WCW commentary. But man, they were great together, and they were prime time, pretty much like staples. You came to really hear their commentary at the desk in the studio.
I'm sorry, back to the color commentators. Who was best?
The very best? Oh, man. I mean, modern people would probably say, not so modern, but in this century would say Lawler. But for my money, I have to say Jesse was just right there at the top to do everything during that time. And he was such a commodity that Dick Ebersol wanted. This is after Predator. When Jesse left for Predator, he was supposedly fired by Vince. They brought him back because Dick Ebersol requested Jesse for Saturday Night's Main Event to be the commentator on that with Vince. So that cachet and that type of influence, where a mainstream TV executive sees the value in you, that's pretty big right there. So I would say Jesse, obviously Jerry Lawler. Who else? Mr. Perfect was really good. He was really good as a commentator. You didn't like Piper. I love Piper. Savage was really, really good with Vince during Monday Night Raw days. Really good.
Jim Ross didn't like him, or found him difficult to work with, and I thought they worked with each other great.
Energy. He brought energy. He was easy to play off of. And anytime you have one of the boys or talent in general as a color commentator, that's perfect, because that's the NFL, that's the NHL. I'm sure over there, European football, they have an actual, if not on commentary, they have them analyzing it during the pre-show, halftime, post-show type stuff. That's what's missing. Looking at other people, I would say, did they have any heel commentators in Memphis? Was Dutch a commentator for a bit?
No. Not really, no. Do you know who was one of the last commentators in USWA before it shut down? Was Stacey Carter.
Really? As a play-by-play?
Yeah. She did some announcing. I was trying to think. This came up on the Dutch show yesterday. Someone wrote in for Ask Dutch Anything. So it'll be out after this, when this is released. What do you think of Missy Hyatt as a commentator in Continental, the Fullers? Anyway, horrible.
I didn't even know she did that. I know she did
a bit of commentary.
She did the talk show. We talked about Missy Manor during the pre-show, but also she did a lot of interview segments, and that's where her And I think Paul kind of went at it. Paul Heyman back then was Paulie Dangerously. Same thing with Medusa. Medusa being out there and like what, the Halloween Havoc where she slapped Paul. He was like making her cry. Then she slapped him and it was a pretty hard slap. So Paulie on the comment, Paulie with JR in WWE, WWF was very, very good. That's when he was out shooting rollerball and showed up for Raw as commentator.
Cornette, I've got mixed feelings on as a commentator.
Him and JR were good. That's why it's important to have a great play-by-play guy that can, like JR, you just said, he didn't like Savage. He didn't like the way Savage, the interaction there. That's very, very important with that. I think also Jesse, and didn't Jesse and JR have a thing with WCW that didn't really mesh together too well?
Yeah. Jim Ross said the exact same thing. Well, actually, Jesse said that Jim Ross just kind of refused to play along with him. Like, he'd just kind of brush him off and wouldn't engage in the byplay, which Jesse was a complete waste of time. And, the show's going to be so much better. But I still thought they were a really good duo. I've got a list of people to throw at you now.
Okay.
In fact, which we actually could do a list of. I will say this, I quite like Luscious Johnny V as a co-commentator because he would just lose his mind when he, like, flubbed a line or whatever and he'd just start yelling like Captain Lou. I did like... Yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was going to ask you a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt. Was it Billy Graham that pretty much almost gave away the finish to the Warrior Honky Tonk Man match and said, this could be
SummerSlam 88. Yeah.
That was Billy Graham. Okay, because Billy Graham sounds like one of the worst commentators we're going to talk about, which was supposed to be a ripoff of Dusty Rhodes and a mix between him and Billy Graham in a way.
There's some, there's loads of names here. Kevin Kelly, thoughts?
Oh, very good. Very good, yeah. I didn't like Terry Taylor as the color commentator when they were doing Heat together, but Kevin Kelly and Michael Hayes were good. Kevin Kelly.
Dude, I think Terry Taylor did commentary for like that American Wrestling Federation, where they had the round system. I think he was doing commentary for that at one point.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I do know that he was commentating with Kevin Kelly on Heat or Jack the Metal, those early days right there. Kevin Kelly's very, very underrated, but he also mixed between commentary and then doing mostly backstage interviews. You Rock would mess with him during some of the stuff as well, just like Coach and Al Stone from Stevie Night Heat. Coach was a good, when they both became heels against Lawler and JR, that was a little goofy right there. But Coach is underrated as a play-by-play person.
I'm going to just give you some names. You mentioned a lot of them. Jesse Ventura, Bobby Heenan, Bruno Sammartino. They gave him nothing to do. It was pointless. Lord Alfred Hayes, I quite liked. Billy Graham, Johnny Valiant.
He was doing like the house shows with Gorilla, like MSG and Philly Spectrum and stuff like that.
Dude, if we want to we're going to get onto the worst in a minute, or we can get onto the worst now. Do you know who wasn't good? Bless him, Sean Mooney. They'd only let him do the videotapes.
But Sean on his podcast now, you can see when you're produced a certain way, it's not a comfortable. Todd Pettengill was another one that came from radio.
He could do the commentary, but I thought he was great as everything else he did.
Like the hype man interviewing the kids and stuff.
I thought he was great. Yeah, I honestly thought he was great.
But I still thought Todd Pettengill could do some. I have no doubt they probably put him in there and tried him out in the booth. I have a story to share about that because we'll get to the worst commentators if you want.
Right, that's the main event of this segment because I don't know what it's going to be. Let me just see. We've Bobby Heenan, of course, Jerry Lawler, Jesse Ventura. Let's go through the color. Larry Zbyszko, thoughts? He's very polarizing.
Oh yeah. I actually have a story about Larry when I was in WCW because for some reason at the time it was super annoying. But as you got to know Larry, it became entertaining because that's just the way Larry is.
Go on.
So I would wrestle, and I basically say my first match in WCW on Nitro or Saturday night. I don't think it was commentary on Saturday night, but let's just go with Nitro. I would do something, and then he'd be like, well, he didn't hook the leg. Well, he did this wrong. He almost like he was coaching me like a wrestling school trainer. And then in the very next match, I would hook the leg, and then Shivani or whoever was on commentary, might have been Bischoff, would say, well, Stevie hooked the leg this time. And he goes, well, he didn't hook both of them. Can't do anything right. And then as years went on and I saw Larry in TNA, I was like, dude, I was so at the time I was annoyed about that, but now I'm laughing because you were kind of heelish about it. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember." I was like, and he was like, "And if you hook both legs," I was saying he didn't hook the third leg, and he laughed and walked away.
We mentioned Mike Tenay, Steve McMichael. Well, Mark. Okay, I'll put my hand up on this one. Mark Madden, awful.
Mark Madden, the same polarizing radio show host in Pittsburgh, I'm saying what kind of made him a name in Pittsburgh for good or bad reasons, polarizing. They were trying to bring that to WCW.
I'm not thanking him for it. Scott Hudson in WCW.
Good. Yeah, underrated. Yeah. I think Scott did a great job.
Don Callis in ECW, if you watch that.
Don Callis is a color commentator, yeah. I would say, you know what? Another one, excellent on commentary, and actually commentated Extreme Rising as well. Joel Gertner, really good on commentary. Really good on commentary.
Taz, of course. One of my favorites, and I think he really grew into the role.
Yeah, one of the best. One of the best of somebody. Now let's examine Taz for a minute or two, because people might not know unless you're old enough to know, and especially if you're an old enough wrestler to know. Taz in ECW was about as gruff, about as flat, vanilla, no personality. I mean, he had his own personality, being miserable backstage, being super serious. So even when I watch his commentary now, it still takes me back. Like, whoa, wait a minute. This is the same Taz that him and Perry put their heads on the Halliburton, and you had to walk up to them at the table, and you were bothering them, but you weren't bothering them, but you had to show, all these things that made you kind of like walk on eggshells. And to see Taz be one of the most entertaining commentators in wrestling history is really right up there with the ones I mentioned before. It's such a novelty that never wore off to people like me.
I won't go through too many more. Booker T is an interesting one. In NXT, he's got tons of personality now. He wasn't actually, I was going to say, I just saw his name then. The one I thought he did a great job straight off the bat. And then I think he got overproduced. And there's probably two people around this era. Bradshaw, Mick Foley.
Oh, Mick was getting yelled at the whole time. He talks about it all, like Vince yelling at him and he couldn't do it. And that's part of the reason. Is that part of the reason or the main reason he left WWE and went to TNA?
Main reason, yeah.
There you go. Bradshaw was really good and still really good. He can get back. He comes back on the commentary from time to time. There was a name I just thought of, and I literally just forgot it. And it was like the wild card, really good color commentator, and I completely forgot already. So CT today.
What era?
I don't know. You probably have that list of names on there, and it'll really hit me out of nowhere.
Okay, let's go on to the lead announcers. Todd Grisham and Josh Matthews.
Josh Matthews, let's talk about that. Josh Matthews and Ernest the Cat Miller on Velocity. Josh Matthews and Bill DeMott on Velocity. Bill was fine. It just seemed like they didn't have, it was forced, especially with Josh and Ernest. And Ernest was bringing personality, and I thought that they were going to keep him around for that. Bill, kind of, I don't know what Bill would dip in and out of being a heel and then be friendly towards Josh and then bury Josh. Am I mistaken when remembering the kind of the bipolar? Bill has that bipolar nature anyway.
Josh doesn't have the voice for it. I'm sorry. There's just certain people, like, you just don't have the vocal cords to be a commentator or to listen to him for like 2 hours. I'd say Josh is one of them. Am I being too harsh there, or do you? Because I almost think like the same with Cornette. He's just too high pitched for too long. When he does his podcast, he speaks more normally. Yeah. Which is fine, but when he's an announcer voice, his voice is so high all the time, it puts me on edge.
I think the volume and the inflection of excitement raises the octaves on Cornette and Josh. I mean, you can get a guardrail dropped on the back of your neck, and then you'll have the nice, dark, raspy voice after that. Do it.
This is one that we forgot just because we have to mention it. David Crockett.
Look at him, Tony. Look at him. It's going to happen. Look at him. Oh, it's going to happen, Tony. Look at him. But you know what? I remember it. I remember David. I remember David Crockett, and I remember as a kid, and for God forgive me, and please forgive me, David Crockett, that when Nikita in the white suit finally gave him the Russian sickle and shut him up, I cheered as a kid. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I wasn't there, but yeah, I've seen it since. Don't you worry.
That was how Ric Flair became a babyface, pretty much for the first time I remember as a kid.
Excalibur.
Excalibur, that's Cornette's favorite. He wears a mask while commentating, right? Cornette still have a thing about that?
Probably.
Saying
he wants to keep a grudge?
If you didn't see, well, goes against his reputation holding grudges. But I was going to say that Excalibur, I guess if you just heard the voice, that's a commentary voice. That's a play-by-play voice. And yes, it's actually, Excalibur's featured much more on Botchamania with Taz's commentary when they're taking nothing seriously. Like Dark Elevation back in the day was just like a way for the commentators to just bury each other and rib each other the entire time. Even, we left out a name that I think was a very good play-by-play with Taz on Explosion. You know what I'm talking about?
On Explosion. Jeremy Borash.
Yes, absolutely. Jeremy Borash, very underrated. This is turning into a list of commentators that are like, I think, underappreciated and underrated in a lot of ways.
I'll see if I can give you a couple more. Byron Saxton. Are there just some people who are just so kind of bland?
I think that's what they wanted, and also overproduced. Because I know, Brian, I know from backstage to way, there's so many people that have personalities backstage. It's like one of those things like you almost have to trick them in the recording, like not tell them like actors, we're not rolling film. Let's just rehearse it. And that's the good take. That's kind of a lot of with commentators when, dude, you got to hear, like sometimes in each year, you're hearing two different things, like especially with Vince. You're hearing instruction as you're hearing people, you're hearing the truck, then you're hearing Vince yell in your ear, which I was on ECW commentary with Mike Adamley. I guess we'll go into the worst now, but Mike Adamley on ECW, the 100th episode of ECW, I commentated the match.
Are we doing the you story? No. Save it.
No, there's two. There's three you stories. Me, you.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Save those for the end, please. Michael Cole, thoughts?
Well, either die a hero, live long enough to become the villain. I guess. Right. He's been there like 30 years.
I know that, but when was he the hero?
Dude, at first they destroyed his confidence. In my opinion, Vince was always messing with him, always yelling at him. That famous thing about when Michael called you. Remember that video? I think we watched it, and we both watched it individually. I think where Michael Cole starts to argue with Vince, and you don't hear Vince, and he's just like, "But boss, I think we should all right, yes, sir." Yes, sir. I understand. Yes, sir. I'll do it. Yes, sir. Like Vince was just Michael Cole. That's the only time I've ever seen him kind of push back a little bit. But Vince used to mess with him unmercifully. I mean, mercilessly. Is that a word? Oh my God. It's a TT.
It is now.
Billy Grammar.
I'll see if I can give you some more than Mauro Ranallo.
Oh, love Mauro. Yeah. See, that's what I mean. You start to forget about it. He was somebody that gave the big fight feel. And some could contend it was over the top too much, but I would rather him be over the top and pull back a little bit. But when I heard Mauro's voice on, was it Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling? He was commentating
recently?
On?
Yeah.
Recently, yes. Yeah. Dude, once I heard the voice, because a clip came up, I clicked on it. And once I heard his voice, I stuck with the video. Because it had such a big that's why commentary could either make your product feel bigger than life, feel like a big TV promotion, even if it's an indie, or it can make it feel like it's amateur. That's audio quality, sound, pacing, knowledge, interaction. If you have two people, dude, God forbid, three people back in the day in WWE, now they got AEW up to 4 or 5 sometimes.
They do that. We've got them coming as well. Corey Graves is an interesting one. I think he's got better.
He has, but when you're putting him in with all the names we're talking about, it's just something I've always had the impression that Corey wants to wrestle. He really embraced commentary. You know, Corey Graves in the NXT in the beginning, really, really good. Really, really good in WWE, but then overproduced, I think, as time. He sounds like a mini version of Vince sometimes,
Hmm.
like P.T. Barnum-esque type sound.
Wade
He used to
Barrett.
do radio, by the way. State. I remember when I met him in Pittsburgh as a local, and he was like, "I'm doing radio, I'm doing this and that," and like it's kind of funny to see it kind of come full circle.
I'll mention these next two actually together. Not that you probably have the same opinion, but Wade Barrett and Nigel McGuinness.
I really like Nigel, and I remember Cornette telling me, I don't dislike Wade. I'm just talking about if you compare them. I remember the story of Cornette talking to Joe Koff and everybody at Ring of Honor about Nigel on commentary, and he needed some time, some reps, but they wanted to kind of dispel Nigel from commentary because he sounded different, which I loved. And Nigel's made it sound much more official and much more professional in a way. Besides being a worker, it always makes it much better that way.
So Wade, you're just kind of in the middle with Wade.
Wade's getting a lot better. I love the fact they gave Wade an opportunity to commentate WrestleMania because usually they would be really stingy with a lot of those spots. No, Wade's good, but when we start talking about the overall body of work of all these commentators, especially from the past that we're now remembering, it's just time. It's reps and time with that. Dude, trust me, everybody's saying, man, you're being really judgmental. Wait till we get the worst commentators. It'll all even out.
I'm going to give you two more names. Joe Tessitore.
Oh, that's the guy.
Currently now, SmackDown.
Okay. Just okay. Just okay. And then they got the guy who used to commentate in WWE. Is that now he's on TNA?
It's not
right?
Joseph, is it?
Yeah, I think that is, isn't it?
Or Adnan Virk at one point was there. I'm trying to think.
Who's the other guy? Tom Phillips? Was there a Tom Phillips guy?
Tom Hannafin. Yeah, he was Tom Phillips. No, it's Tom Hannafin.
He was commentating NXT, correct?
Was he commentating NXT? I thought he was a backstage interviewer for the most part. Then he
swore
went as a commentator to TNA.
You know, there's one commentator, we want to finish off this thing. The commentator that they couldn't get, that they wanted to pay big money to come in, was Mike Goldberg. Remember that back in the day?
Yeah, but they only wanted to do that to screw UFC.
Exactly.
For reasons no one even knows of.
Now they're all owned by the same company. Yeah. Imagine that.
The last one, which is one of the... I guess people liked him at the beginning, and now he's like one of the most reviled commentators, is Matt Stryker.
Really? Yeah, Matt was good. And I remember Matt was commentating Lucha Underground as well.
Yeah, just people... I don't know what he was. Like, he was doing the English versions of New Japan for a while as well.
He looked like somebody that was going to make their way back to WWE or definitely a major American TV company to be their play-by-play or color commentator. Matt's always been good at that. I don't know why. Why did it all of a sudden fall off and now they don't like him?
I don't know. Like, he does some English stuff for maybe CMLL, or did at one point, or AAA maybe before WWE bought them. But he was doing like a lot of like translation commentary in the last few years, and as you say, Lucha Underground and whatnot as well. But the tide has very much turned on with public opinion on his commentary skills, because I believe people liked him in the initial with WWE, and then late years not.
So he lived long enough to become the villain.
Apparently so. Should we get to Stevie's commentary nightmares? Because I didn't realize... You only announced before we started recording there was one. And now we've got to three. And I don't know what these other stories are at all, so I look forward to them all.
Okay, so the first one, we'll go in chronological order. And I got to remember the third. I know the second was the ECW 100th episode. The very first time that I had any kind of commentary or tried it at all was after my neck surgery, after all the stuff happened with that. WWE, I went, or back WWF, I went to one of the local Philadelphia shows. I think it was a live Raw taping. And I was meeting everybody and they were saying, you know, you should come in. Or I talked to Shane, I talked to Rocky, a few other people, I think even Vince for a couple minutes. And they were like, you should give, if you're not going to wrestle, you should give commentary a try. I said, "I've never thought about that. Do you think I'd be good?" Yeah, it sounds so much of a departure from where I am now. "Do you think I'd be good at that?" Yeah, I just down myself. And like, "Yeah, you should go up and have a tryout." And I was like, "There's no way it's that easy." Like, you just said it. So I got a call like a couple of days after that. I think I gave my number to Shane or JR was there, or somebody I gave my number to. It was Shane or somebody in the office. And they called me up to Stanford to do a commentary tryout with JR, which instantly made me nervous. And I didn't know how to prepare for it because I've always, as a kid, we've all done it. You're watching a match and sometimes you turn the sound down, you and your friend, and you're trying to be the commentary team. And I was like, this is like a lot of fun, but stressful. And you're trying to figure stuff out. So I went up there. I was so nervous, met JR, seemed kind of indifferent to it. I'm sure he would have 50 different things on his mind, they had to get to. And there's just one more thing in a 12, 14, 18-hour day for JR. We sat down and I asked him some questions about what I should do. He said, "Oh, just follow me. It'll be fine." And we commentated a Rocky match. And it's one of the first times he was doing the people's elbow where the people want banana. I hit the microphone, but one of the first times where the people's elbow really got over and you start to see the people stand up in the background. So we were commentating the match. And when Rocky was going for the people's elbow, I went from, I think, doing a decent job of sound bites, which is hard to do, by the way. And that's why I'm not really, you can tell about this show, I'm not really great at sound bites, but I was doing a decent job for somebody with no experience. When Rocky went for the people's elbow, I cut like a promo. I talked about it, this is one of the most, electrifying moves in sport. I started to give all Rocky stuff. And JR's just looking at me, but I took over commentary and started doing like play by play in a way. And JR was like, I think he even said, like, I was like, "What did you think?" And he goes, "Oh, that was something." Shook his hand. So let's start off based on this story. One of the worst commentators in wrestling history is Stevie Richards. There we go. Does that balance it out?
Yeah. So quite a few years later, you are apparently then given an opportunity to talk with the worst commentator in WWE history, Mike Adamle.
Yeah, we commentated the ECW 100th episode, only one match that involved Tommy Dreamer, and I believe it was Elijah Burke. I'm not sure. Might have been Mike Knox. I'm not sure who it was, but it was Tommy Dreamer. It was an Extreme Rules match. And I have to say this, I will bookend it with this. I had no idea, and I just finally got an idea what Mike Adamle is battling. He battling CT, battling dementia. I had no idea about Mike Adamle's past as a football player, nor a Chicago legend, nor even a sports reporter in Chicago. He's really, I think he was revered and hopefully still revered in the Chicago area. I had no idea that. So I wish I got the chance to know Mike Adamle better. I think our commentary on that 100th episode, that match, wasn't bad. I think he did a really good job leading me and having fun. Now, of course, he called the table a picnic table, and I said, "Well, that's a little bit more than the picnic table." And I think I did a decent job for what it was, but I know I could have did a lot better. So I know he's considered to be one of the worst interviewers or commentators because of the Jeff Harvey stuff and everything, but I think he gets a bad rap for that.
It's kind of amazing that he was 6 years in the NFL, 2 years with the Chiefs, Jets, then Bears, all in the 70s. He was 5'9".
Yeah, but they were very stocky. I mean, there was a lot of people that were shorter, stockier, and, it wasn't what it is now, but still super tough guys.
So what was the third one then? Do you remember?
The third one, I put 100% on myself based on the first two experiences. Lucha Libre USA with Kevin Kelly, and then with Alex, who actually works in AEW right now. I did not prepare as much as I should have. I mean, hardly at all. I should have been calling Kevin Kelly. I should have been asking for mock commentary sessions leading up to that. I might only have like 2 weeks, but that's still 2 weeks to get familiar with everything, to get a rapport down. And Kevin and I had that backstage, talking to each other, knowing each other since WWF in 99. And even before that, I knew Kevin. And I just did a really, really basic job on color commentator, so much to the point, even with Alex, that they actually decided to make me a full-time wrestler, turn me heel on Mark Jindrak, who was Marco Corleone, and go with RJ Brewer and his group and start wrestling. But that was such a wasted opportunity by me to at least get something on tape that I could present to WWE at the time, maybe to go back or do anything like that. So, yeah, I was one of the worst commentators in history. You know what? There's a part of me that would love to try it again, even on the independent wrestling level. Like here in Florida, there's tons of indie wrestling, or even other places. I would love to give that a shot if there's an opportunity to do that, even to just see if I can do a quality job or improve on it and make up for the past 3 times that I really didn't live up to what I think I could have been.
What's the hardest part of commentary for you personally?
I think the hardest part is anticipating what the play-by-play guy is going to do, which was mistake number 1. Because you and I react off each other, basically off sometimes show notes I get 20, 30 minutes before, and then sometimes we just go with it. And we have our notes, but we veer off a whole lot and we play off each other. So that chemistry, I feel like it's not that I didn't trust Kevin, that I didn't trust Mike, and I definitely wasn't that I didn't trust JR. I didn't trust myself to hear and see the cues as they were happening in real time. In other words, I didn't trust the instincts that I have in myself as a worker. I didn't trust that they would translate over into commentary. In other words, I made it too hard on myself, and it came across as forced, not natural, and actually threw them off in a way too. It goes both ways. So I think that was something I could learn how to do.
So basically, it's like the first thing about acting is reacting. Is it the same thing?
You need to trust what you were trained off and have reps with and your knowledge. In other words, even when we do our smartboard segments, I watch it, but then as we're watching it, I naturally see something that pops up and I go with it rather than saying, well, wait a minute, I didn't know that was going to be said or that happened. It's a lesson for everybody out there that you're your own worst critic, you're in your mind the most, and you need to get past the devil on your shoulder and just enjoy the show.
Well, thank you everybody for sending your questions in. That was one question we got to this episode. We have to move. No, we'll do a few more. We have got 50 minutes in, and we've done one question.
I did it again. You don't want to go 4 on this?
All right, go on. We've got some more questions. We'll get to it. JSWBR asks, what would you consider to be the most impactful moment you experienced in passing or through witnessing that ultimately became a profound locker room lesson? So not something to you specifically, something that you personally witnessed that I guess you learned from.
Well, I wish I could ask a follow-up question to this question about what kind of locker room lesson are we talking about. I guess the most impactful moment I experienced just watching the whole thing in passing, like back and forth across me, in front, back, in every class of the plane, would be the plane ride from hell. That whole experience from there, looking at that, and I never was tempted to do anything bad on a plane or anything that could result in an international incident, but that would be the heaviest thing that I've ever seen. But I don't know what the locker room lesson would be, other than, hey, don't do all these things because, and you know what the locker room lesson was too for everybody? That now chartered flights are going away. We're going back to commercial. And that's what happened. They took a lot of perks away for a time to the boys because you couldn't trust them, or the whole talent roster as a whole. Even though you could say it was only a couple bad apples, but it was about maybe half a dozen bad apples that were really doing everything. It was a lot more than just an isolated incident.
Next question, ADHD Vlogs. Why do mid-carders make the best wrestling storytellers? Now, I'm presuming in this kind of format, in podcasting, YouTubing, that kind of thing. I
tried to examine this question because we got it earlier this morning. I want you, and I'm not delaying this or stalling this because I have my opinion. And obviously, we're talking about in this format, myself, Maven. I would consider Perry to be above a mid-carder at times in his career. He's really got a lot of traction. What would you say? And this is kind of like, I think, also tailored to a previous question about why so many YouTubers in wrestling fail, because there is a lot of effort and transparency and I would say vulnerability. Um, not being, not having main character syndrome because you're talking about mid carders and storytelling from an honest perspective. What would you say? What say you, James?
Actually, I think your answer is like not having the main character syndrome is a really good way to put it. I think a lot of people, you kind of have to have that, I'm presuming. You have to stick up for yourself. But also, I think you always said Kane in a previous episode. He was the nicest guy. He was also the guy with the least, high opinion of himself, who was also a multi-time world champion and main event star.
But still carried the confidence to protect his brand, business, character, all that stuff.
Yeah, the only other person I would say who was like a bona fide main event superstar who was actually really good at podcasting and kind of has that humbleness to him was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he was the star. As far as like individual years, like at their peak, Steve Austin was a bigger star than Hulk Hogan. He was a bigger star than The Rock. I always say that Steve Austin is the guy. Yet when you hear him doing podcasting and interviewing and people, hey, you did this great thing in your career, and he goes, yeah, I did a couple of things here, there, and everywhere. He downplays it. And there's something relatable to the way he is, and his character was, as well. And I think that's why he works as a content producer, or did work as a content producer, because he's not trying to outstar anybody. But there are other people like The Undertaker, for example, who doesn't even want to be there, and he's bad at it that way.
And then you could argue he doesn't want to be there.
He tells you he doesn't want to be there.
I love that, actually. The honesty, at least, you got to give him that.
Or Cody, right, okay. I actually saw a video just before we started with Eric Bischoff, one of the shorts, right, or reels, and he was saying, man, I wish Cody Rhodes wouldn't do that podcast, because he's killing off his own star power with it. And I was like, okay. But I actually agree with him in the sense of like, you're an active current main event wrestling superstar with WWE. You should be the one exclusively getting interviewed. Like, in a sense that affects him. But also, you can argue it this way, is that he's not that good at it. He's dry. He's not full of personality.
But Cody's dryness is almost like a cynicism. If you know him, a cynicism, a sarcasm, a dry sense of humor with that. And that's where a lot of people are in the locker room with very dry, matter-of-fact sense of humors. And it translates in the locker room, and if you know him, but on a podcast or a YouTube channel. I'm going to say this about Steve. This is what's amazing about Steve Austin. I don't think there's anybody I've ever met in the business as aware and protective of his character, his brand, what he's put in. He puts so much into really micromanaging in the best way possible to make sure when he got his opportunity, he protected that character and took it as far as he could. And then to do a complete 180, and it's not about me, and I'm just basically giving you the floor. That's incredibly difficult to do. And that's why a lot of main event podcasters don't end up successful, because it is that main character syndrome. So getting back to the question here, that is something. When you're in the middle, or even sometimes middle to the bottom at times, you see everything, or you're either going to be delusional and it's going to be exposed for being delusional, or you're going to be completely aware of where you were, where you are, and see it for what. And there's something about also being a fly on the wall in a lot of the situations and happenings and events, like Plane Ride from Hell, and you see it all, and you don't have to get involved, or, you should get involved if it gets past the point of no return. But what I mean is, you can be an observer and look at it, and then if you remember the stories, tell the stories from the middleman perspective of everything around you. That's what I think does that.
I think people in pro wrestling who make good YouTubers generally are not main event, but in the middle, have been in a lot of companies. Maven's the outlier that he doesn't have a lot of experience outside of WWE, and that run was 4 years. So he's the outlier in the sense that you don't even need tons of experience, in a national company.
Could I stop you 1 second? Please hold that thought. But Maven, through Tough Enough, was pretty much exposed from day one. You talk about the quality of Maven's run in WWE. That's what you have to look at as well. It's like working one indie a month as opposed to like Dutch working full time from day one.
But I'm going to bring up Dutch as well. But like you, Maven, Dutch, Perry, Jim Cornette is a great one as well. And if you compare to like someone like Dusty, who's an amazing talker, but I bet would have been a horrible content producer because he's always the main character. Ric Flair was a main event, horrible podcaster. He couldn't talk for more than 2 minutes on a single subject without derailing it, or just, talked kind of in sound bites, that kind of thing. We can talk about Kevin Nash all we want because it's always fun. But, he's not suited to it. It's simple as that. And, like, for the amount of star power that he has, Ric Flair has. The Undertaker, in that sense, is the outlier because he isn't that good of a podcaster. But he's such a big star. And, you're always looking for those little bits of, stories that he can drop on you.
But also his production is top notch. It's not StreamYard special. That also, it looks like a television show when he's doing the podcast.
Yeah. And then we can, and you're not going to forgive me for saying this, but like someone like Bubba Ray Dudley who thinks he was the top star and then acts like it. And it's like, you know what? I think where a lot of the people who are really good at this kind of thing are the guys like you and Dutch and whatever who can be more objective than most and talk about the highs and the lows. I mean, you beat yourself up too much, in my opinion, and other people have said the same thing, but who can be honest about themselves, but were all good at what they did at the same time,
I think there's a more important story out of this, and thank you for mentioning Bubba, because it brings me back around to just express my concern for Tommy Dreamer. Please, Tommy, I haven't seen you since that photo. Are you okay? The people want to know.
I don't think he's blinked since that photo was taken.
According to you, the view count hasn't blinked either.
Yeah, well. I mean, I don't know. What else do you want to say? Look, I looked at the YouTube on Busted Open Radio, for goodness sake. They're doing a load of interviews and they're not getting many views for them. Right. What do you think? What do you think makes the best content creator YouTuber then? And are all main event stars for the most part just not suited to it?
No, I think they're absolutely suited for it as long as they take the right approach and know what it is and do what Steve Austin had done. If Steve Austin can do it, we can all do it. Remove yourself from the conversation. And anytime someone, which is a natural thing, if I was sitting across someone, I'd be asking selfish questions of Steve. And that's where he deflects it back and says, yeah, I did a couple things. Now, what about you? He can keep it on to where it needs to be. So, and I think there's a certain romance to his podcast because people want it. Like, he leaves people wanting more. He's not like, what's the longest stretch that Steve did the podcast for? Because he dips in and out, right? Or he's completely done now.
No, he's not done it for many years. Like podcasts won't keep doing Steve Austin Classic. He probably hasn't done it in 8 years or something, or 10 years now, and he's probably not done it since 2016.
Has it been really that long? Because I thought he was doing, but he was dipping in and out at one point. He would do it.
He was doing the WWE Network stuff, and then he was doing the Broken Skull sessions. And there's a theory going around that that one with Dean Ambrose.
Oh yeah. Who can forget that?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if that hastens Steve stopping wanting to do it, or, I mean, some have argued that it hastened the end of Dean Ambrose's real push in WWE.
I have heard that rumor. I have heard that second half of it, that it really didn't play well to the office. The nonchalant kind of, I'm just here so I won't get fined type attitude.
What do you think of Jericho?
Oh, Jericho's been around forever, hasn't he? Like he had Talk is Jericho. He had the Jericho Network years and years and years ago, and he brings on people from other types of things. I think he's even had flat earthers on there and other conspiracy stuff and a ton of things. I even never listened to an episode. I've listened to a couple clips many years back when I was doing the show with Russo, but just haven't caught it. But yeah, it continues to get numbers, right?
I guess so. Is there anyone else as far as wrestlers go that you think are... I'm trying to think who else just wouldn't be suited to it. I don't think The Rock could be good at it. He would get ridiculous numbers, but he's too media trained. He's way too media trained and way too protective of his own brand. I think there needs to be an air of vulnerability and honesty, and I don't think you get that with The Rock. And you'd be hard pressed to find a big... You wouldn't get it with Hogan, of course. I mean, he's died now, but like you'd be looking for the work constantly because he would be working you constantly.
You know, I think it'd be great at it because he's always been a very disarming guy. He's always put other people over with his actions, with when he was out there, and also the way he talks. I'm surprised Jimmy Hart has not done one.
I think he's like certain other people we know who never wants to ever say anything about WWE ever.
Yeah, but all he has to do is talk about his time in Memphis. There's tons of chronological things from how many decades he's been doing it. He's been in 70s, 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
I can't see him being good at it. I think I'm sure he'd be a great interview guest. I just can't see him hosting stuff. It's like Lawler tried doing podcasts.
I think it would be a dynamic like what we're doing, and he would be, kind of fed stuff and everything. I just think for personality's sake and the fact that Jimmy he definitely doesn't have main character syndrome. He's always been an accessory to everybody else and getting everybody else over. But Jimmy getting people like Honky Tonk Man on there, people getting like even Brett on there, you know what I mean? Talking to people from his past that he managed, that could get quite a few episodes. Getting Lawler on, getting other people. I mean, it could be a treasure trove of nostalgic, like, history.
Lawler did podcast twice. He wasn't very good. He's like Rick. Just 1 or 2 minute stories, move on to the next one. It's like pulling teeth. Trying to get stories, and it's like this is one of the greatest talkers of all time. Flair too. I just don't understand why it just doesn't translate. It's like you think if you're a great talker, well, you must be a great commentator, and they're completely separate disciplines.
What do you think about Tony Schiavone as a podcaster when he was doing it?
Never really listened.
The only reason I know is the only reason I had words sent to him many times, and I've said it on this show. Completely ruined my childhood because I used to be a huge fan of Tony Schiavone's commentating. Then he did a cameo, and then he did the Blue Chew ad, and I was like, oh. He's a natural heel, by the way. Tony Schiavone, you can tell in the commentary. I love when he... I can't believe it was an act because it was on Botchamania quite a few times, like a staple during the Taz commentary segment that they have every week or so. But Tony does some he calls Taz dude, and the Taz snaps and goes, dude, I'm trying to call the match. Dude, kiss my ass. It's like, wow. Please bleep that out, Chris, if you want to. And there's comments, by the way, that they love the fact that we beg Chris to do stuff, and he just might do it or might not if he feels
He's
like
alluring
it.
to himself.
He's fate. That's what they called him. He's fate itself.
One more as far... Oh, Kurt Angle. He wasn't good as a podcast host. But the thing is, he had someone leading him, but he just... I don't know. Like, he just wasn't suited to it. Another person main event, Mick Foley. You'd think he'd be brilliant.
Do you think there's still a political nature of that? Like you just said, I don't want to be misaligned with certain companies or do anything like that. Do you think there's a self-censoring to a degree? Maybe not 100%.
That's the other thing. I mean, but the thing is, you think if you're like a main event star kind of person where you're always going to have AEW or WWE these days trying to offer you, if nothing else, like a Legends deal, you don't want to queer that deal. So that might be another reason why it's not a good thing if you're going to be mega super. But I think the best podcasters are not main event for the most part. Been a lot of places, long career, of course. You have to have been in WWE for a decent period of time, and are not looking for a job.
Well, I think I covered at least the last one for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's basically you, Maven, Perry Saturn. I think that might be about it.
Perry blows us out of the water when we think we're I'm like, man, I'm really honest. I was really blunt and brutal with that. And then you watch a Perry clip, and you're like, Yeah, I was a soft shoe in that thing compared to Perry. You want to talk about somebody that doesn't give any, you know what? That's Perry. So please check the channel out.
Bless him for it. Next question, Blue Juju. From the 20 plus years you've been in the industry, which performer would you say could have been a megastar, but was hindered by creative backstage politics or by their own ego? I like the ego tilt on this one, so why don't we focus on that?
I can't recall, because in wrestling, your ego is exactly, you have to balance it, obviously, but you have to have confidence. You almost have to have main character syndrome in order to get over, protect your business, and do all that. You got to be sort of a narcissist in a lot of ways to be able to do that. And that's why, based on the other question, a lot of people that do implement that get very far in the business. And sometimes in the YouTube world or podcast world, it works on the inverse and actually hurts them because they're so limited with that thinking that really got them. It's kind of like in wrestling where you have to work as little as possible and try to make the most amount of money. Then when you get in the real world, it's the exact opposite. You can work super hard for the minimal amount of money and hopefully it'll go up. So I don't know about ego, because that there is exactly what can carry you in entertainment, in sports, and especially sports entertainment. Now, as far as politics, man, the list is very long, and I'm trying to really think of one name that's the poster child for politics and not getting pushed to, I guess, their potential. And man, this is going to be so out of character for me. And I don't know if, James, you're going to already have this name in your mind, but I would say me. That I never lived up to my potential, and nobody's perfect. Obviously, I probably made mistakes or got heat for certain things or whatever, but the politics and not being favored by the office or by people that are above me or certain people that we still talk about today did not help me. I was not in certain cliques, pun intended, whether it's the official clique or another clique or a group of guys. But yeah, I hate even answering the question, saying it like that, but that's usually what it's termed as we do these clips and shows is underrated, underappreciated. I had no idea that you could, be charismatic to this way or talk in such a way that's it's very thought out and everything. That's the only name. I mean, there's tons of names, and there might be some that are even more egregious than me. The people that had more of a body, more physical attributes, more of a mainstream background. I mean, what names come to your mind?
I don't know, a million of them. I was thinking of like ego or something like that. I mean, you could always say like their size was an issue, but someone like Austin Aries, who was just has a terrible reputation, but was really talented. But like people kind of overlooked the talent because they were so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, but also he was pushed. He was former TNA World Champion multiple times, correct?
Yeah, at least once. But then there was that thing with Johnny Nitro, wasn't there? Whatever he's called, Johnny Impact.
Took the finish. No, he took the finish, got right up and walked out. It was a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's when Johnny won the TNA title, correct?
Is that, yeah, so that'll be when he won it, yeah.
Yeah, but he still got pushed. Now, the question, we can split hairs on this, but we're looking at people that have never, like, what if Austin Aries was so talented? Because I remember him wrestling Joe in Ring of Honor when he beat Joe for the ROH World title. Remember that? And that was an amazing match. And based off of that, if he had never took that talent or was able to show that talent in TNA, WWE, other places, he was in WWE, wasn't he?
He was, but he was like the 205 Live champion at one point. I think he ended up getting replaced by Enzo as the face.
No, but I'm saying he was in WWE and the 205 Live. And I just think, I think from the question, okay, here's another one. Nobody disliked this person, got along with everybody, super friendly, but it seems like it was just always maybe not malicious politics, but just like, nah, yeah, but no. Brad Armstrong, who's every bit as charismatic backstage as Road Dogg and his brothers and everybody else. The entire Armstrong family really were very disarming but charismatic. Brad was funny. So I would put Brad maybe even way, way above me because I got at least some opportunities.
Yeah, but he had personality, and that was the thing. On screen. I never asked you this.
On screen.
On screen. Can I ask you this? So obviously, with Right to Censor, that'd be your peak in WWF as far as working with, the big names every single week: Undertaker, Rock Austin, occasionally everybody else, for the most part. Did you really think that was going to last a lot longer, and then they just called it off 1 week? I mean, could you see that going another year or two with you as the leader still?
Well, I could see it going longer than it did. Looking back on it at the exact moment that the guy that was writing the Right to Censor stuff did not get along with Brian Gewirtz. Brian Gewirtz did not, from what I was told, did not really like the Right to Censor, didn't want that. And we knew he's the head writer, so it's the beginning of the end. Once that writer that was writing for it and really sticking up and advocating for the storyline and for the characters, not to mention the people in the actual group wanted out too. So that didn't help as well. So
well, what was his beef? Do you know?
What was whose beef?
Not
Brian?
Dave Lagana. Yeah, Brian Gewirtz, that's it, yeah. What was
I have no idea. It might have been a personal issue with the other writer. I'm not exactly sure. I never got to be buddy. I never brought Brian Gewirtz comic books and action figures as a thank you for pushing us.
Edge and Christian, by the way, that's who did it.
Exactly. So I'm looking at that, and there's politics though, right? Maybe they were friends, but there's a political thing to kind of like get on the good side of the writers, to get good side on that. And that's something I just showed up, did my job, and tried to do it the best I could. And there was times, like I said, Right to Censor, weighed 262, worst physical shape of my life. I deserve blame for that part, to not carry my end, to at least maybe kind of move off to the side and do something afterwards, even though we're being called down. We weren't called down. We had the ice bucket challenge. We were frozen solid instantly.
I'll give you a few more names. You can argue the biggest one, Mr. Kennedy, because he was potentially world championship material. He was Money in the Bank winner, and I think he was the first guy to lose in the end. But you can also, right, with the John Cena, Randy Orton thing, that's one thing that I think most people agree on is total crap. And he didn't deserve that at all. But like when he went on an interview and then said, I'm not on steroids, I don't take steroids, blah, blah, and then like a week later, his name comes up on that, pharmaceutical list where he was, and then afterwards,
Pharmacy,
Signature Pharmacy, and then a few months later, he does an interview with the same people and says, "Yeah, no, I lied about that, but it's my body; I should be able to do what I want." And it's like, okay, but I don't know. It's a difficult one because he put the company in a bad position there, and he did himself no favors.
Yeah, this is such an excellent question. We can go another. You're going to be like, well, each question deserves an hour here at the Stevie Richards show, as you joked last hour we had. But it can go on all these different levels. So you're talking about somebody like me who never really sniffed the outside of being a manager, never really sniffed above maybe lower mid or mid at the most, mid card stuff. But then you talk about Brian Armstrong, never really got any opportunity unless you put him as Arachnaman or Bad Street under a mask, where he showed a little bit more personality. But then you look at the Mr. Kennedys of the world, and even you could put a Val Venus in there and other people that are like, yeah, you were Intercontinental Champion, you were mid to upper mid card, but the politics keep you from like a Mr. Kennedy. Look like he had a rocket strapped to his back, right? And then it just leveled off. So see, there's different tiers of somebody not reaching a potential of what they were looking to be put towards because of politics or ego. I can't quite put, because everybody gets tested. I even have a story. Rocky in the beginning, I think when he won his first Intercontinental title, or even when he was becoming a Rock, one of the Hebners was traveling with him, and they would say they would stop at a restaurant or whatever and say, yeah, you need to take care of him. He's a huge star. This is The Rock, or this is Rocky Maivia. This is the Intercontinental Champion. And Rocky'd be like, no, I'm just no different than you see how those little tests on your ego to make sure you don't start believing, which there's a lot of people who start believing it too.
One more name, Vader. I mean, he's almost like the poster boy of politics getting in the way.
That's a good point. Beating people up for real from time to time doesn't help you in the locker room that anybody wants to work you. I loved watching him. Dude, when I watched him, we were talking about Glenn earlier. I watched him and Glenn in a match from Raw, and Glenn was like every bit back on Vader, what Vader was giving him. I was pretty impressed. I was like, yeah, I remember Glenn hit me that hard too.
Next question from Olgak is near. I don't know what it is. When you drive to shows, who are your favourite and least favourite people to ride with? Thank you for your time.
I'm going to have a healthy and safe day. I'm going to try. I squatted today, barbell squat, so hopefully my back will hold up. So thank you for the question. Here's the key. I never, ever, even if I got heat, I would never ride with anybody I didn't want to ride with. I was on my own schedule. I started riding with Gangrel when I first got in WWF. That was great to ride around with him. He was a super nice guy. We were both afraid of Luna at the time, so we got along great with that.
Were they married at the time?
He was married to her at the time. So, it was myself and Dave would drive together. Then I was driving alone here and there. Then my favorite group, the favorite person to ride with is Glenn, without a doubt, Kane. But then it would be Glenn, myself, and D'Lo for a time. Then it was Glenn, myself, and Rosie from Hurricane and Rosie. And mixed into that group as the fourth person that always tried to cause trouble was Charles Robinson, the evil referee. So those were my favorite people. As a matter of fact, we were going to get a tour bus back then and split it, but I wasn't on the road regularly to justify the cost. Like if I was on every house show, TV, pay-per-view, along with Glenn, even that time, Rosie and D'Lo were figured in the stuff, at least being there. And Charles, of course, ring crew and referee. It would have been a great experience, an even better experience on top of a great experience. But those were my favorite people to ride with. I didn't really ride with Meanie, didn't really ride with Nova. I rode with Tommy and Nunio during the beginning of the new ECW. Actually, I'll go back. At the very beginning of the new ECW, it was myself and Just Incredible. That was good. Then for a time in between Gangrel and then, fighting with Glenn and everybody, Crash Holly. And Crash Holly really did try to get me in trouble with everybody we encountered. He was no filter at all.
Ow.
He just open his mouth and start trouble with people. And then it would almost turn into a fight. And he would be like, well, fight him. He's a former professional boxer. He says you don't know how to fight or whatever. It's like, is that so? And then step up to me. And I was like, is it that easy? Is it that easy to stir something like this? And everybody's like, yeah, seems that way. So that was it. And then I rode with Tommy and Nunio after I stopped riding with Justin. I think he stopped being booked or whatever for a time. And I remember that. And all I can remember is that for some reason, Nunio was the most violent brusher of teeth that I've ever encountered. Like attacking. I said, you're actually brushing your teeth like you wrestle. You're hurting everybody around you. God, I still have Ms. Dracula on my phone, by the way. I showed you that.
Did you ever ride with someone once thinking they'll be fine, and they're like, oh my God, they're a terrible car share partner. That's never happening again.
No, not at all. Because you know what? I have ears, I have eyes, I listen and I watch and I hear the stories and I avoid those people. When it comes time towards the end of the night, kind of like Dreamer, I used to escape during the pyro. That's what I would do.
So, have you ever even had it where like someone doesn't have a car for the evening and they don't know where they're going to go? So, oh, come on, Brian, Christopher, or whoever it might be, you can jump in with us. That never happened.
That never happened. I don't think anybody wanted to ride with me after they discovered, because I made a deal. I made a deal in HWA with Bill DeMott, one time and one time only, because he wouldn't go to the gym with me when it opened. He liked to go at night or whatever before they went out. And I said, I will make a deal with you and everybody here. I will go out to a bar and I will drink only if you will go to the gym with me after we leave the bar. I drank a little bit. They were fine. They went to the gym. Half of them threw up because they drank quite a bit more than I did. And I was on my Isopure and my hour of cardio before we went to the school for like 5 hours. So that was pretty cool. But I never, dude, it was uncomfortable enough being in the locker room at times or being around some people. I didn't care if somebody said, you're too good to ride with anybody, you want to ride alone. I wanted to be on my own schedule because the rest of the schedule, I was at the mercy of everybody else. But my gym time, when I ate, and especially, this is the trick, I would stay at the cheapest hotels. I would stay at the Red Roost, the Motel 6, and even the America's Best, where I discovered for the first time that some hotels charge an hourly rate.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what that meant. So,
it's just a good deal.
and we know about the story with the hotel with Glenn, where he wanted to basically, you know what, he wanted to unalive me because we opened the closet door and there was a hole going to the next room with a heart spray painted around it. And I said, well, what's wrong with this? Stevie, the deadbolt, it looked like somebody took a crowbar to the door and the deadbolt. I was like, yeah, but it's $20 a night, man. That's pretty good.
Who was your first road trip ever? I'm presuming ECW.
Well, before ECW, I'm talking about on the indies. When I went to other shows, I rode with, what was the guy's name? Oh my goodness. I rode with fellow students and stuff. I rode with maybe Jimmy Giannetti one time. And I think I rode with JT Smith one time on the indies. Then I would ride with Tom Brandy on the indies before and after ECW. I think one time I rode with Tom. After ECW, I definitely rode with Tom a lot on the indies. In TNA, I pretty much kept to myself, or I would get the car and then I would pick up AJ, and that's when I would room with AJ and destroy him, Madden every night. Never forget that. So, hey, comment on AJ's. Does he still have a podcast that we control and get him?
I guess so.
Get him to play.
He might be another main event star. Who's I don't know if he's. I've not even watched.
Falls by the wayside.
Well, he kind of has.
Yeah, I don't know. What were you going to say?
It just doesn't seem to have that many views. I mean, I've just not watched it, though, but it's the same StreamYard thing that I just find a big turn-off.
I see AJ just diving fully in the gaming, having a Twitch stream, doing it like that, because he was making a ton of money when they did it back in Bandit, correct?
I guess so. First big name you shared a car with?
Raven. First big name. You know, as far as... I do remember, actually, let me back up on that. WWWA, I was riding, the referee was driving, I was in there, and we had Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka in the car. And that was kind of the first names that I was ever in a van with or in a shared ride. But consistently, the biggest name or the first big name was Raven in ECW.
Where does Marty Jannetty fall into all this? Because it's one of my favorite stories still.
Oh, God, you're talking about the Baltimore run from Maryland Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, if you haven't heard it yet, it's worth it listening to.
Oh, God. We're leaving the show, and it might have been a show in West Virginia, not necessarily MCW, because we did some West Virginia thing, which, by the way, Raven and I, one of the scariest things, and this isn't the same trip, but the same kind of area of that. We were driving West Virginia on one of those windy mountain roads, and all of a sudden, the headlights, the high beams were on, came up to a person who was wearing a white suit, hair all mussed up, with the big teeth, just like that. Stand on the side of the road like this. And I went, drive. Just like, and Raven's like, would you think I was going to stop, idiot? I go, maybe. Because you thought it might be funny, because when we pulled up, the dude was on my side, and we were in a convertible, in like a Chrysler Sebring. I'm like, we're going to die. This is brutal. But another we're going to die story would have been Marty Jannetty is in the back seat. Raven and I are in the front. I might have been in the back, but I think Marty was, because the back door was locked. Marty goes, hey, can you guys pull over? And we were driving through a neighborhood. So can you guys pull over? So the first thought in my mind, even being as naive as I was, are we stopping to get something, if you know what I mean? And Marty was like pulling over here, and I was like, he's like, I'll pull over right at this house. I was like, do you know anybody here? He goes, no. And Scott's like, don't do it, Marty, don't do it. And I was like, what are we talking about? He goes, he likes to bum rush houses. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he goes, he just likes to, like, if the door's open or whatever, he just goes into the house, says hello to everybody, and runs out the back door. I was like, he's going to get killed. He's like, he does it all the time. And he didn't do it. Barney was like, oh, no, that doesn't look right. Go. So we dodged that.
I
Did I
like how it
tell the
didn't look
story
right.
okay this time? I know the last time.
No, I know, but I like how like it didn't look right. Like you had to get the vibe from the
I don't know what
place.
I don't know what it needed to look like, but I thank God that it didn't look right to him that night. I hand to God, Raven had told me that was a thing somewhere, sometime, for some reason. And I was like, I don't know, like, do you get to a point on the road so much you get that bored that you want to just run through a stranger's house for no reason and wave hello to them? I think people can get shot for that, right?
WCW? Any riding partners there worth mentioning?
Well, Raven, but it was on the opposite end. That's when we weren't getting along.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, we will move on. Did you ever get, or were ever a part of a standing ovation from your peers after coming backstage?
not that I can recall. The closest thing that I might be able to think about, because everybody was doing it. ECW was always very much a team atmosphere. You would always give encouraging words or advice, or people would critique your work when you would come back to try to make it better. But I think everybody had gotten at least an ovation, if not a standing ovation, after every match at the first pay-per-view. That was definitely something that when I came back, they either did it because, you get eliminated. I got eliminated first, then Sandman came back. Terry wrestled Raven, won the title. I think we all got the ovation when Terry finally came back. We all thanked each other and that. But after every match, everybody got positive responses and positive feedback, in the locker room. Because we did have a monitor. We were sitting there by the entrance. The entrance was here. Monitor was in the corner here. And then the stairs were off there where he said, "This is the dance." And then they had the upstairs and then the door where it was the over locker room under that balcony with Taz, Bubba, Perry, and everybody.
Final fan question we'll do for today from Polar Penguin. Given the decline of the WWE product, I guess, do you think Vince McMahon is livid that they've massacred his boy? Does that further ignite his desire to get WWE back?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Vince in his mind and in his heart is still connected to WWE. I don't know what he does on a day-to-day basis, but I can tell you his days are probably super empty, like not having, because it was a 24/7 job. Vince hardly ever slept. He was always doing something. Even way back in the day, there's stories about when there was house show like receipts and the gates and all that stuff. He would get those at midnight, 1 a.m. before going into the office the next morning or going to a TV or any of the other stuff. I have no doubt it probably hurts him to see him not involved or even to see them go in a completely different direction. The number one thing I would say, for everything you say about Vince and, things named after wrestlers and the NDAs and all that stuff, you bring this up when it comes to the ticket prices, that Vince was very hypersensitive about trying to get families to come to the show, trying to get repeat customers, as a matter of fact, Mark Shapiro almost, what would you say, blasted Vince for not charging enough to people. That's what I think right there really does, from whatever perspective, kind of get the Vince, not only creatively, but the business model of WWE being such a far departure from what he had it.
Yeah, but there's two things I want to bring up to you. One, people have now got this rose-tinted glasses things. Oh, when everything was great when Vince McMahon was... a lot of those years were awful. And I'm talking just about on the product that you saw on screen. Like, I still say the late 2010s, some of the worst TV I've ever seen. Worse than it is now. Absolutely. Second thing
they call it the Ruthless Depression era. Or they call this the Ruthless Depression era, but they kind of call that as a joke instead of ruthless aggression.
Yeah. But I think they just say in the late 2010s, just the dark period. The darkest period of when it was just terrible. No one who was watching at the time wants Vince McMahon back. You're all thinking about, oh, wouldn't it be great if Vince McMahon came back and it turned into 1998 again? No, it wouldn't. Not in a million years, would it? The other thing is, I watched a documentary last night on Boeing. And I don't know if you've kept up with this at all. And, over the years, they've gone on a campaign of hiring these CEOs after CEOs that give themselves bigger bonuses every single year as they strip mine anything of value from Boeing, including, you know, the quality of the components of these planes and more crap. I think it's like the 737 MAX or whatever it is from Boeing, and they're still in litigation over it, and none of these CEOs are ever going to get arrested or, you know, see any real justice from it while they give themselves...
They have whistleblowers testify in front of Congress about it, right?
Yeah. And there were more and more whistleblowers coming in, and the main guy did himself in over it, you know, due to the pressure. But I mean, is this what I think what people believe of TKO as well? Is that they've just brought in the CEOs and their bottom line is make as much money as possible at the expense of everything else. Do you think it's that bad, really?
Well, we know from a business standpoint, at least my guess, and I still stick by it, they're trying to get out of debt and make as much money as possible because it was like $3 billion they were trying to get out of that debt. They want to sell to Saudi. So if TKO is what it is now, what do we foresee when the Saudis take it over? Who do they bring in? What do they do? Or does TKO have it for another 3 to 5 years to run day-to-day operations? What do we have?
If TKO don't sell to the Saudis, and there's already hints that Saudi Arabia are kind of, you know, this bottomless money pit is bottomless to an extent, and they just don't want to keep throwing money, like bad money after good at certain things, like Zuffa Boxing or Live Golf or whatever it might be. But if TKO don't sell to the Saudis specifically, I don't think there's any way they bring Vince McMahon back, because TKO are so obsessed with sponsors, advertising. And even though we're in the era of crime is legal, which we are at this point, you know, there is no accountability for anybody if you've got enough money. That will still turn off a lot of sponsors, and I just don't see any upside of bringing Vince back.
Well, I mean, they finally get that elusive Blue Chew sponsorship, though.
He doesn't need it, apparently.
It's not the only sponsorship they don't have at this point. No, what I say with that is just looking at Vince pretty much being put out of the game and watching a completely different playbook in that game and not liking it. I'm not saying Vince is going to be any better. I remember script tear-ups at 4 to 7 p.m., whatever Vince wants to do, and even just calling in stuff and changing it. And for people, you still have Hayes and Pritchard there. So let's talk about the theory that Vince might still be slightly connected to the company. He has 2 of his biggest yes men still there, which is a mystery, how they hang on.
You know that Vince, and you love this because we first saw the logo in the Hulk Hogan TMZ documentary. It was hastily put together, but it was actually done quite well for the small amount of like turnover time they had. And Vince McMahon had stenciled on his wall, and you said, I know exactly what shop from Amazon that they got this wall sticker from, the font and everything, for 14th and I Holdings Investment and Management LLC, that Vince McMahon started 2 years ago. But they made it. He created this company 2 years ago to do something. Brought over Brad Blum from WWE, other people as well. And best we know, aside from the fact that they've rented office space in Santa Monica, they've done 2 years of nothing. Like, they may have done some private investment we don't know about, but there were theories they were going to do another wrestling show or buy TNA or, you know, get into entertainment in a different kind of way, and there's just nothing. And it's been 2 years.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that was completely set up for different reasons? And if they happen to run an entertainment company or a wrestling company, that would be great. Do you think they're doing that to operate something of a loss for something else? You talked about corruption is legal. Yeah, for tax shelters. Companies, I think if you start a new business, there's still a tax law. You can lose money for up to 5 years on the business. Maybe they took loans and they're writing the interest off, forgiving loan. I mean, dude, we're kind of at the end game of a lot of this stuff, you know? It's not even a secret.
Apparently it's not a fake shell company. I mean, it is registered. There just seems to be just nothing to it. But it goes to what you were saying before. This is a guy who worked 24/7. You know, probably eats dumbbells for lunch, and makes everyone sit around and
choose
watch him eat a
water,
steak. Yeah,
follow,
choose
water,
and then you steal his protein bars. But like, how can he go from WWE full on until beginning of 2024, apart from that little, fake sabbatical where it was a retirement they claimed? But how do you go from doing absolutely nothing from the beginning of 2024 and not jump into something else? Because this company has like no visible movement whatsoever, and there's a lot of people hired by it as well. What are they doing?
You're asking me? I don't think we're going to get hired anytime soon, but I still have to think that the Saudis, I still think also in a weird way, will Vince get inducted in the Hall of Fame at WrestleMania 43 in Saudi?
Yeah.
Will it finally happen?
I think so. Definitely.
Hunter's growing that hair back. Is that for the pay-per-view as well?
Also, we can shave it off. Lucha de
Hair versus hair.
Apuestas. Yeah. Like him versus Steve Austin. Why not? Let's have the stakes as low as possible.
I have morbid curiosity to see what Saudi is planning, and Saudi is going to have a hand in booking that pay-per-view, what they're going to bring in, if they're going to have a full nostalgia push of everybody in there. Like, why they have 2 nights, but one night just be like the Nacho Man and the Huckster from the days of the WrestleMania thing, which was actually a match they had at WrestleMania. The Nacho Man and the Huckster.
Okay, that was on the free-for-all.
It's still WrestleMania.
But that was the first cinematic match, by the way, as well, I think.
It could have been the last
Amazing.
one.
Oh, it wasn't the last one. We got Sting and Undertaker and everybody. Bray
I was
Wyatt.
just saying it could have been like based off that performance.
Hey, well, you know how Saudi Arabia loves people close to death? Or, people like way too old and they're trying to bring them back. Or people who are dead. Yokozuna, Ultimate Warrior. But I hear that Jerry Lawler wants one more match with Bill Dundee. So, hey, they could get one more payday. Why not? He was not moving well. They named a school after him, Stevie. But they also named a street after him.
Street, yeah.
No, they named a school after him as well. Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to do the follow-up gag, or shall I move on?
Yes, please do the follow-up gag. Please get us out of this.
I was just going to say, well, no, he went to school for many decades. What can I say? He wasn't always educated there, I'm sure. But
that's why it's dangerous, because I had that exact thought in my mind as you were saying it.
Oh, absolutely. But like, he was doing the interview, the not the congratulations speech, but the acceptance speech of having to. He didn't look like he was moving well. So
when he walked up to Dundee, you showed the video. Walked up to Dundee. It was like a Saturday Morning Heroes type appearance. And he was walking really just shuffling. And Dundee, man, God bless. Jimmy Hart. I hope we're half as as Jimmy Hart. He looks the same.
Dude, I was told that, did you see the Hulk Hogan documentary? And he was sitting outside this huge mansion. Did I say this on this podcast? I looked into it. Apparently he doesn't live, he lives there, but he doesn't own it. Apparently he just lives in the pool house of some really rich guy's house.
Really?
Yeah.
And Jimmy strikes me as somebody that saved his money and was pretty frugal.
Well, maybe he still is
outside of the outfits.
Maybe he still is saving his money.
For what? He's like 85.
Yeah. Gentry's reunions.
I'm all about saving money, investing, being frugal. I get up there in age, I'm going to start looking at that new $100,000 Tesla Plaid or whatever. I think I want that.
Don't give me that. You've been looking at that since it came out, probably since it was announced, and you're going to give it another 10 years of looking before you ever buy one.
Exactly. I started researching my 2023 Honda Ridgeline in 2011. Get to him nodding. He knows.
Yeah. Well, you say, oh, I'm just going for another test drive. Are you going to buy it? Yeah. You're the Raven of buying cars. Yeah.
Make it a discount. Wait till the end of the quarter.
We're going to move on. We're going to go to the news. And quite a lot of news, as there usually is in the wrestling world, of course. But I understand the thing that sometimes I do the same news, Dutch does the same news. We occasionally all do the same stuff, but I've saved so much stuff for you. A lot of it all what went wrongs and what went rights as well. As only you could do, Stevie. We're going to get to some of those later. But first off, Ilja Dragunov leaves WWE. Supposedly, the story goes, is that his deal is already up. WWE, and more specifically, Ilja Dragunov, didn't want to re-sign. They were far apart on money. The story is going at the moment. And he's already a free agent. No 90-day no-compete clause. By the way, did you see Jinder Mahal talking about the 90-day no-compete clause and how there's kind of how he believes there's a misnomer about them?
I did see the actual video pop up, but I did not click on it, and I hope he's doing well. But yeah, what the 90-day is actually, the 90-day no-compete is actually legal to do that, correct? If you're an independent contractor?
Right. So, Jinder Mahal, Raj Desi, I think his name he's going by now. If that is his real name, I've not checked. His argument was, or his suggestion was, that it isn't actually a 90-day compete. He says it is almost like a notification of termination of 90 days, but you remain under contract for the next 90 days. So it's kind of not like you are fired this day, but we still pay you for 90 days kind of thing. Maybe that's the way they, get around it.
Yeah, but they don't present that as somebody who's been, on the other end of that call. They do not say, we're giving your notice and you're done with the company in 90 days. So you'll be sitting at home, we'll be paying you. We have to let you go. Sorry, it's a budget thing, or creative has nothing for you. So we're letting you go. That's exactly what it is. You're getting released. We have nothing for you. Best luck in your future endeavors. Nobody ever says, they do say, you're going to get paid for the next 90 days and you can't work anywhere else. To me, and you know what? There are certain times, if you ask a question, I've heard about this, where you're like, well, I'd like to go to Japan next week, or I'd like to go work next week or in a couple weeks. And they'll be like, no, and you'll be like, I don't want the money. I want to keep working. And they kind of played off like it's illegal for you to do that as an independent contractor, to turn our money down. Because let's face it, the 90-day, it's to take any momentum you may have had away from you, which I had none. So I took the 90 days, whatever, I don't care. But for somebody that's, Ilja Dragunov had a little bit of momentum going on. Obviously, injuries and other things have kind of started that in the past. But man, would that guy be a natural fit for Japan, a natural fit for AEW? And it's a shame Josh Barnett, what's a Bloodsport?
Mm-hmm.
I think he could have did pretty good there too.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as money goes, he's only going to make some really decent money in AEW. Tony Khan's already been asked about him a couple of times, and he's gushing praise for Dragunov. I kind of already expect that he, along with S. Farrelly, Sheamus, and the New Day, or whatever they're going to be called, they're all going to be probably debuting at All In. I figure they're going to do one of the big casino gauntlet battle royal things, and they're going to have him in, or all those guys in, and Ilja Dragunov as well. I think everybody kind of points to the Royal Rumble this year when Dragunov... do you remember it, surely, where he went up to Brock Lesnar?
Oh, where he's chopping Brock, and Brock was laughing at him.
Yeah. Kind of spelled the beginning of the end for Ilja Dragunov.
In his mind, maybe that's why I didn't want to. That probably has a lot more fire with what we're talking about. That could have been the part where he's like, before they get me, or this is exactly what they think about me, so there's nothing more. But they gave him a U.S. title run, correct?
Yeah, he was a U.S. champion in 2025, but he was featured like every week, Challenger of the Week kind of thing. And him and Sammy were doing like the Open Challenge when they were U.S. champion respectively. I'm just looking here. Ilja Dragunov didn't win a match in 2026. In fact, he only, am I right? No, I'm sorry, since January of 2026. And then after the fact, he has a few non-battle royal matches, and that's kind of it. Like, he hadn't wrestled since April. There were rumors going around that he'd be back in June. He wasn't. Maybe he just wanted a lot more money. Maybe he just saw his value going down. But you can say that about a lot of people on SmackDown at the moment. Carmelo Hayes, Johnny Gargano, Damian Priest, other people like that. There seem to be the subsets of like mid-card guys who some are being used and some aren't, that you just kind of think, ugh.
Dude, I forgot Johnny Gargano was even like with the company, because I know Ciampa went to AEW. Johnny Gargano is still there?
Dude, he's depressed. He's been he's got paid for 6 months straight by planking. He's just like, belly down straight and being sad. He hasn't had a match since like April. But he's on TV most weeks.
They probably just like seeing him sad. But I will say this with Dragonov and other people, did they offer him 50% pay cut? Dragonov.
Well, apparently they were far apart on money, so maybe that's the case.
He might not have been asking for more, but he was asking for exactly what he got. And they said, no, 50%. Because if you're going to do it to other people that were rumored to win the WWE title after that, we don't know for sure. And there are people in the company that took that pay cut. Why wouldn't they do it to Dragonov, who they cooled down significantly, especially after the Royal Rumble? Hey, you haven't won a match in months.
There were rumors of people out there who may have taken the pay cuts. We don't know, but who do you think is kind of going next from WWE? There's some theories Bayley's going. There's some theories that WWE might be just ready to cut Carmelo Hayes just because they just, he came in hot, and then it seemed like as soon as Trick Williams came in, they just went, forget about you, buddy, and moved on.
There's actually a lot of people, and we haven't even scratched the surface with NXT of people that might not have be panning out on their way to the main roster. Who knows? But if they have to, I think it's no longer after WrestleMania. I have all the releases to Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday after. I think now it's directly correlated and probably has been for a long time. So it's nothing new on their stock call every quarter. They want to make sure they take off the books, make more money. And yeah, Bayley might be up. Bayley's been with them what? At this point, 15 years?
Not too far off, I'd suspect, yeah, if you include developmental.
So there we are. I mean, Bayley, she has to be where Dragonov is, too. I'm not too happy. I've already hit my plateau. I've stalled. Maybe the one last effort for her is to go back to the car dealership things and hug kids and stuff like that. The one last, nostalgia thing to try to get her back.
There seems to be more stuff with Bayley where people are hinting or posting or making AEW references.
Didn't Mercedes Moné say something too?
Yeah. All seems like it's point. Hey, it could all be just a very good negotiating tactic, but.
All right, let's flip this to the other side, which we do when it looks like there's a big influx of WWE people going to AEW. What about the people that have been there? What about the people who are working hard and trying to get an opportunity or trying to move up the card or get more opportunity, and they're going to get pushed to the back so the company is WWE light once again?
Yeah, it could well do, but I don't think Tony can resist certain talents. You know what I mean? And I don't think he can resist paying them a lot. I mean, he can't fire anybody. He's fired very few people, like Awesome Kong, Joey Janela, I think. I don't know. I don't know if he was fired. Big
Swole, I think, too.
Big
that was a big internet thing.
Yeah, there was a few people. Punk, of course, most famously. He didn't fire many people, so, in the next
he fired
year...
Punk, but I think Punk got a payout for it, too, right?
Probably.
Put an NDA.
Yeah, and then they showed the footage. Oh, yeah, no, of course, for the other thing as well, yeah, for the brawl-out thing. Yeah, he doesn't like to fire people, but in the next year or so, a lot of those contracts are coming up. A lot of people are going to be going. Then there's going to be a huge influx in the indies.
I was going to say, that's another thing, too. I mean, it's going to be saturated everywhere. It's going to be competition. And, Luke Gallows, what he said, it might go the opposite end if people keep taking less and undercutting just to get the work.
Could well be. Could well be. Do you want to talk about the Road Dogg thing?
I'll be sitting right here and going nowhere.
Do you want to talk about the Road Dogg thing?
Sure.
It was just weird. So I've got the quote here. Brian G. James on Twitter. Tag titles are beneath them at this point. He's talking about Austin and Colton Gunn, the Gun Club or Bang Bang Gang, whatever they're called today. The tag titles are beneath them at this point, as is every other team, and I mean every team in AEW. Then he tags Tony Khan. I heard you didn't sleep. You're sleeping on these boys. Some people have suggested that might be a narcotic jab at Tony Khan because he doesn't sleep. I didn't read it that way, but other people did, I guess. But Road Dogg is basically saying that Austin and Colton Gunn is the best team in AEW, better than everybody else, and they are too good for the tag team titles.
Does this include the Hurt Syndicate?
And Edge and Christian, who are the current tag champs.
I would respectfully disagree. Those guys have a lot of potential. Obviously, Billy Gunn being their dad, they're going to be trained the right way and be athletic. I enjoyed watching them, whatever they do, but strange. It's kind of like is there two different conversations going on here with these tweets?
No,
I know
this was
there's others.
that's the first one. That's the first tweet that he reacts to a
No, but
video
is
that Austin
there
Gunn
two
posted.
different things in there? It sounds like I don't understand. Like if the tag title, you're saying the tag titles don't mean anything, or this team is so over that the tag titles are beneath them. So what do you do with them? What's better than being tag champs in a company?
As
I'm
a tag
asking an
team.
honest question.
Well, okay, right. Here's the other thing. You said as well, they've got a lot of potential. They've been there 7 years. You know what I mean? It's like there's potential, and then there's been there the better part of a decade, and you'd know better off than when you started, pretty much.
But isn't, here's where I go on the talent side somewhat. Isn't that a creative thing that you haven't made us care about these guys in a certain way? And you have the revolving door, people on TV, then off TV for a while, then they make their return or they don't. These guys have been pretty steady there. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to interpret the tweet itself. Like what prompted it? I know there's further stuff here, but what prompted Road Dogg to do this?
He's just reacting to an Austin Gunn video of him rapping from like a few years ago, and he just likes it. But I get why Brian's doing this, because obviously he's Billy Gunn's friend and they're the sons and everything. It continues on. Dave Meltzer then tweets, for all the people who championed him coming to AEW, this is Road Dogg, by the way, and we'll get into championing Road Dogg going to AEW in a minute. He's, to say that the tag titles are beneath Austin and Colton Gunn shows a lack of understanding of AEW tag titles. They weren't beneath Omega and Page, nor Christian and Copeland, nor FTR, nor Young Bucks. I don't even mention MJF, Adam Cole, other people like that. I don't get it. I don't get why he would say that, because my argument was when he and Billy were New Age Outlaws at their hottest period, among the tag title holders were Undertaker, Kane, Mankind, The Rock, and Steve Austin, the 5 biggest stars in the company. In fact, them holding the belts made the belts mean more. So how can you be too good for them? Especially when you're at the bottom of the barrel tag team in AEW. You don't get featured that much.
Yeah, big tag team champions back then. Obviously, they deserved it. Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, like, got immensely over. Right. That's the time where you obviously had your main eventers that you just talked about. But at the same time, there was more of this for a good thing in the Attitude Era. And then Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were right up there to say, if they did get in the ring with Taker and Kane, if they got in the ring with Austin and Rock, you'd be like, yeah, these dudes can hang with them. It wasn't going to just be they were going to get run over and jobbed out or anything. And plus, being a part of DX, and you said they were way more popular than other people in DX that were the leader of the group. What did you say? He's the 5th most popular member. Wasn't there 4?
Oh, China as well.
Okay, there you go. So the manager, the bodyguard.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Like,
No, you're not
DX,
wrong.
when it was
You're
in
not wrong.
98, Triple H was the 5th most popular member, because the New Age Outlaws, I will always say, were the most popular by far. X-Pac had his own following and really got people behind. Loads of people loved China. Triple H was there as well.
He got the biggest push out of all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. As Jeff Farmer would say. But getting back to this, I don't know like what would prompt this. Even being Road Dogg's smart enough to know. What do you think in wrestling when you challenge a promoter publicly on social media and you advocate for these 2 kids? Doesn't the promoter in a way have to say, I have to assert my authority, and just on the state of being contrarian, I'm going to sit them at home for what you said? That's usually the way it works. They're going to pay for your sin of doing that. And maybe Billy's still at the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Tony would do that, but I definitely think Tony's not going to turn around and push those kids to the moon right away, because you know what will happen then? It sets a precedent that anybody can go on social media, challenge, and dare I say, bury Tony Khan, and he'll fold and do exactly what you say.
How about this? They're apparently bringing the New Day in Are you going to say that the Ass Boys are better than the New Day? Because they are, like, even if you think they're better in the ring, they don't have the star power. Not 100th of the star power of the New Day. So how are you going to work that out? You didn't build them up well enough over the course of many years, and now they're just exactly where they are. Former tag team champions, by the way, that they were too good for, I guess. But there's so many different ways of looking at it. It's like, are they the most talented wrestlers in the entire company? Does anyone think that?
Well, you can test them and see. That the New Day coming in, Sheamus coming in, or S. Farrell coming in. You have Edge and Christian there. You got FTR. These are other teams I didn't mention, by the way. The Young Bucks, you MJF and Cole back in the day. I'm just saying, if those teams are still formed or other teams come in, put them in there with them. Challenge them to succeed or fail.
Oh, dude,
That's
speaking
what
of
I would
tag
do.
teams, who was that tag team at Raw who debuted?
What, Royce Keys?
Yep.
The guys with Royce Keys?
Yeah. Who were they?
I don't know. We're supposed to know who they are.
You think like Lex Luger, like when his t-shirt was your t-shirt's too tight, Billy? I don't know.
Yeah. That was like the opening for Botchmania for a while.
I'd right.
But here's what I'm saying. I don't know if I'm having any kind of regret. I might be, because at the same time, when you said, do you want to talk about the Road Dogg story? I'm like, sure. Now I'm not so sure because I'm so confused.
Oh, it gets more confusing. So someone says,
Well,
like,
thank you
him
for
arguing
that.
with oh, we'll get more confused. Don't you worry. So someone then writes to Brian, who's arguing with Meltzer, hey, if you want a job in AEW, you shouldn't be publicly be arguing with their executive vice president of communications like this. And Brian, James
Wait a
Road
minute,
Dogg says...
is that Meltzer?
Yes.
The vice president of communications?
Yes.
Okay.
Then Road Dogg says, actually, I was turned away because of my political core beliefs that happened in America. I didn't donate to or vote for Trump, but his old man did, Tony Khan's old man, Shad Khan. Why was I punished? Now, I did quite a few Republicans in AEW opening out. Crikey, Dustin Rhodes got in trouble for liking of an image that maybe had a little bit of a controversial connotations to it, shall we say. He's got a job. What's your problem? I don't think it's that. I kind of just think that people are angling for Road Dogg to take a job that didn't exist. Because Tony Khan, I don't think, has ever publicly said, man, I really need a booker to help me. He wants to do it himself.
Well, that doubled down with the second part. It really, whatever was slim to none before for Road Dogg, because even if they bring him in, isn't this going to create a lot of strife, a lot of uncomfortable awkwardness that, I don't know. This doesn't sound like him. I don't know why he's coming out with these two particular rants on social media. I don't know why he's doing this.
He takes it back the next day. But there's another point that is brought up in another tweet I'm not going to find. And it is Road Dogg, or do you see this with certain people who are so, I guess, I don't know if it's institutionalized with WWE, but genuinely believe that they've either been brought up in the system or have worked there for a long time, that they think there's no other way of doing wrestling? WWE is right, and that's that. Do you see that with certain people?
Well, you can break it down even further throughout the history. He's an Armstrong. So hasn't it been done a certain way in Memphis? Hasn't been done a certain way in Continental? Hadn't been done a certain way in WCW? Then wasn't it done a certain way during the Double J Road Dogg as the roadie type thing? Wasn't it done a different way in the Attitude Era? Isn't it done a different way in WWE today? Which was part of the reason I think creatively, like, he finally said that's enough. But he's also adapted, adjusted through many different eras, many different styles of presentation, and many different, how should I say, what to focus on in the current culture that aligns with wrestling. That's why this is a mystery, because I can't think of many people that have adapted as much as Road Dogg throughout the years, from wrestler to even creative mind within the business.
I think his original pitch was, there are certain things I don't like with AEW. I want to go there and change them. And I think if you go in there with that kind of attitude, you're probably not going to get the best reception from the person who is the booker and is also the person who's hiring. So I'd kind of suggest that they would have more to do with Road Dogg maybe not getting picked up with AEW. But then he was also touted to replace Tommy Dreamer in TNA as the booker, and now that seems to have just not happened either. So who knows what happened there?
Here's what I would say, and this is where politics come in, and that's why I think Road Dogg's always been a very measured. I mean, he has his personality and he says things, but he's always been very careful, not careful to the fact that you're looking at him like he's self-censoring stuff, but he's definitely not in these social media posts. But what I'm saying is, like, whenever I would look at something like that, I would see Road Dogg saying publicly or direct, first of all, publicly kind of angling for the job, once again, puts pressure on Tony Khan and would set a precedent that anybody can go on social media and demand a job from Tony Khan and he'll give in. Do you see where you can't do that? You force him to be like spiteful about it in a way. If Road Dogg had said here privately or publicly, you have a lot of great talent in AEW. It's awesome what you're doing there. I don't want to step on your toes because you're the booker, but I can definitely come in and actually, these are great talents, but I can actually get even more out of them and make them like multi-generational stars. You see how you're promising the same thing, but in a different way? Mm-hmm. You're not saying, man, there's things I don't like and I'm going to change them. You're saying everything's great, but man, if I come in, I can just be another little bump in the greatness for AEW. You got to kind of BS a little bit. Or a lot.
Okay, next up on the agenda for you, Stevie, you with the slow internet, we've got to talk about AEW Fight Forever. Look at him, he's clenching. He's chewing his water like Vince on that one. Why would anyone do that?
Why do you do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why don't we ask him one day?
We should.
When he starts podcasting.
81 years old,
yes,
by the way.
My slow internet. You're just, all the arrows are hitting me right now. Thank you very much.
It was revealed by Insider Gaming's Mike Straw on his very fast internet connection on his YouTube channel that AEW Fight Forever, AEW's first and only console game to this point, was more of a colossal failure than previously believed. At least $30 million lost on this game, Stevie, it's been revealed. A lot of this loss can be pinned on developmental delays. Originally, the game hoped for a Q1 2022 release. It ended up getting released on June 29th, 2023. So, like, at least 15 months beyond.
I want to go real quick. I just got flashbacks to the newscast promoting Wrestling Comes to Town. They're suplexing their way into town. They're going to body slam the studio today. Let me read it. At least $30 million was lost on the game since it was revealed. A lot of this loss can be pinned onto developmental.
Sorry, I wrote that. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm local newscaster, but I wrote that. I didn't even make the correlation.
Oh, God. I'm so much in the bubble sometimes.
Kenny Omega was involved originally. He then distanced himself from the game massively later on. For example, he never played it on his own streams on Twitch.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, he just apparently.
Wow, that's saying something, isn't it? Wow.
So I'm informed anyway.
Even we played WWE 2K26 and we're totally blacklisted.
We he said, like, in interviews initially in 2021, keep in mind, right, that this game was believed to be in production around the time that Dynamite debuted, 2019. This game was in the pipeline for like 4 years practically, almost 4 years before it was released or escaped, some might say. But Kenny Omega was saying all the right things at the beginning, talking about, the nuances of the old wrestling games and what made them so great, even down to the mocap. Do mocap instead of trying to generate it within, because you miss all the nuances of the movement or the way you move your head or whatever it is, that kind of thing. And all the right stuff seemed to be being said. Then at some point, Ukes and Kenny Omega and AEW all kind of fell out with each other over various things. You want to pay homage to the AKI games, Uke publishers, who did the SmackDown games, by the way, but really... For starters, why did they go with Ukes? Because they had a name 25 years ago. I mean, what have they published since SmackDown? Do you remember?
Well, I think it's because of the engine. I think, well...
No, they built the engine from the ground up. Didn't copy
They
and paste the engine.
rebuilt that engine. I thought that at first it was just the Ukes engine they were using and trying to improve it, and not they rebuilt the whole thing from the ground up.
There wasn't a rebuild. They built from the foundations up. This is part of the developmental issues with it.
So they had Ukes basically go back to the drawing board and create a brand new game engine for Fight Forever, and that probably factors into the $30 million right there.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the WWE series and 2K series, so they were off on 2018.
Well, Ukes did the original New Japan wrestling games on Dreamcast. I remember New Japan Pro Wrestling 4 had the Ukes engine on it. That's where WWE went over and got it. Not went over, but basically that's where the original engine came from.
Yeah, so they were kind of like wrestling game specialists. But
not this time.
No, not that. Look, right, the engine itself isn't that bad. It's underbaked, but you can see if there was more effort and more time and more development put into it, you can see the basics of a good game, right? The problem is it's also got no replayability, and the graphics suck, and everything about it is just like, I think they estimated like 1/3 of the things that they planned to put in this game ended up getting left for one reason or another on the cutting room floor, and they released it anyway after over a year's worth of delays because they weren't getting enough money. AEW were trying to prioritize mini games over Create a Wrestler, for example. It's like, I imagine very much so that's why Kenny Omega distances himself from it after a while, because he realizes there's no win here.
Yeah, I know for a fact that Kenny was a huge fan and still a huge fan of Fire Pro Wrestling. As a matter of fact, I played as Kenny. He's my go-to in Fire Pro. For the Bear Mattress ad, it was going to be B-roll of me playing the video games because now I get a good night's sleep so I can beat up Okada with Kenny Omega. But I'm saving it for the Pulsetto ad, though. I already have that planned out. But Kenny, from what I know, was a huge fan of Fire Pro. What's the staple of Fire Pro? The creator work, the workshops, the creator wrestler, the movie, the crafting, all that stuff. When you remove that, the replayability, was that something they pulled out because they didn't want anybody creating WWE wrestlers or former? To me, that would have added so much to the game.
No, dude, they had an underbaked creator wrestler, like really bare bones. So I understand. I haven't gone through all the game. I just played like some of the
Warzone thing.
Not quite. They really had the No Mercy HUD. Maybe not HUD, but like the menus and stuff. Look more like that. The latest game that Ukes has released is Double Dragon Revived. There you go.
Well, here's my question. Okay, you're talking about
Did
a
you
year
ever play
delay.
Pit Fighter? I'm just going to say something else.
I think maybe I played a lot of fighting games early. And then I got
that was the
tired
one
of
where
it.
it was like they digitized like real people and put them in, but like the frames were terrible. Mortal Kombat. What Mortal Kombat did.
A really worse version of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I probably did.
Yeah.
Probably did. During my video game store days when I had one. Probably had it. Here's my question though. You're talking about that it started development. It was years in development. It had a 1-year delay in development. What was Ukes doing? Which I would assume Kenny Omega was asking the same question. We're paying all this money. What are you doing? And it was still half-baked.
AEW, as I said before, actually tried to prioritize mini games over community creation. So I don't know what they were thinking. The game went wildly over budget to the point that Tony Khan and the Khan family pumped an extra $20 million into the development of the game later on. But for these AAA games, how much money actually needs to be pumped in to make a AAA game? We're talking hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it's like you had said in your video, they were looking for a AAA game on a AA price. That's what it is. I would dare say you should have just used the old Ukes engine as the first game, but that it was tried and true. Maybe put a new layer of something graphically on it and just add. Why do you think the reason why I still play Fire Pro, and I know people talk about No Mercy, WCW Revenge, but Fire Pro just has that charm, that spirit. It has heart and soul, and just the replayability of that. A game that is It was out on PS4, and that's just an iteration of another Fire Pro game. My God, I mean, I still play it in 2026, and I still get a feeling of wanting to come back to play that game. And I haven't even in forever changed the ring apron, changed the arena, created wrestlers. I haven't done anything like that. I haven't downloaded creations off like the Steam Workshop or anything like that. Why does that have replayability, but they can't do it on a game that they lost $30 million on? I know it didn't cost $30 million to create Fire Pro Wrestling. I know it didn't even cost $30 million for New Japan, for Giant Graham. No Mercy, Revenge. Those games didn't cost $30 million a piece, right? Lose my voice.
AEW actually owned the game engine now. Not Unreal Engine, what it was built on, but they own the infrastructure of the game itself, so they could go back to it if they ever wanted to. But the rumors are that they may have asked for a third-party input, but that's all it is rumors at this point. But there were more things that were removed from it, like the story. The story mode was terrible. Kind of everything, like, and then afterwards they pumped in more money, and then they released the Stadium Stampede, like add-on game or mode, which was also apparently meant to be like a Fortnite knockoff kind of thing that wasn't implemented well. Like so many things, like AEW just ended up releasing it in the end because they had to get some of the money back. But the problem is that this is one of those games where everybody was waiting for the reviews. It's not like GTA 6 where you know you've got a base layer of quality. Everyone is going to wait for the reviews before they're going to plonk down their full price AAA money for a AA game. And they got half the amount of buys that they were hoping for, estimating. And then from people who were playing the game, it went from a peak on Steam to like 2,200 something at the end of June when the game was released. And then 2 months later in August, there was a peak player number of 177. And then by Christmas, it was about 30. It's like people just left this game. And I don't know why AEW didn't kind of foresee the fact that you can't just release a bad game and hope that people keep playing it. And it's not that bad. It's just really underbaked all the way through.
I'm looking right now at some of the used prices and new prices. Like right now, used it's like $14.99, pre-owned at GameStop. And then I'm looking over here, but still brand new at Best Buy, AEW Fight Forever Elite Edition is $80 right now. Fight Forever Elite Edition on PlayAsia is $68. It's still a pretty expensive game. And I think I saw it, I don't know now, but a couple weeks ago when I fired up my Steam Deck, it was still 50 or 60 bucks on Steam. If you're trying to get your money back, knock that down to like 10, 15 bucks, maybe 20 at the very, very most. But you still might not get it because Fire Pro Wrestling World is on Steam Deck, okay? And during the sale, I don't know what it is now, during the sale, you can get the game, you can get the story mode, you can get the New Japan Juniors edition. I think that charity one, you can get all that for like at the time during the sale for like 25 bucks. And you know you're getting a quality game. Retromania Wrestling is up there at a pretty affordable price. You can even get last year's 2K, which kind of plays on the Steam Deck OLED pretty well. What is that now? 20, 30 bucks? I know the full games are expensive, but you have too much of a choice.
The roster was also way out of date, by the way. And the roster was really small, under 50, men and women combined.
Wasn't Punk on the original cover?
Yeah, but then he had a fallout about... Do you remember this? Because like they weren't sure if he was going to be on the first episode of Collision or not. And they tried to get rid of him, and then they brought him back, and then Brawlout happened, and they got rid of him again, and then... It was really, really just pathetic all the way around. But he was on the original cover for like a week, and then they removed him and replaced him with 10 people, with Kenny Omega front and center.
The one I see is with Sting front and center on the Ultimate Edition, which is $100. On the PlayStation Store digitally, $100.
Just.
What are you talking about?
Just $100.
PlayStation loves that though. No physical media.
Apparently we're going to do like that No Man's Sky thing where they were just going to update it continually throughout the years. That lasted 1 year because their contract with Utes ran out. So now it's never going to get updated. We're probably not going to get another game for quite a few years because Tony Khan and co are more interested, I'm sure, in the Paramount deal and whether they're even going to have a TV deal in a year's time or 2 years' time.
Yeah, that's pretty much priority, the top priority, especially if you're bringing in other people and you got to make the money or get the licensing deal with all the overhead with the contracts. I feel bad for Kenny because if there's anybody there that wanted to have the best AEW game put out there, it was Kenny Omega. So maybe that's the falling out, that everybody else was trying to just go according to like quarterly expenses or profits, or so like you said, eventually let's just release the game and try to make our money back or make something back, where Kenny was probably ashamed that it wasn't released with the quality that he wanted in the game. Could we really just agree on that for sure?
Well, if he wasn't streaming his own game that he was on the cover of, because he didn't think it was up to scratch. The graphics as well, by the way, PS2, PS3 maybe. That's kind of... It's just completely underdone, and it's such a shame. They could have, put a bit more time, but it ended up being a bit more money, I guess. But with gamers, you either release a quality product or you are going to hear about it very, very quickly indeed. It's not like a curiosity thing like going to the movies. Oh, we'll give it a go.
Let me ask you this question. If they want the route of, during those Madden years, if they want the route of NFL 2K5, where Madden was 40 or 50 bucks, and they did a $20 game, and they got volume, because 20 bucks, people will be like, even if it's like, you're expecting for 50 and 60 bucks, a AAA game. You're expecting for 80 or 100 bucks for, what does the Elite and Limited Edition have, since you just said, what are they hiding? What do you have to unlock?
Some extra wrestlers. No, you have to buy them all. You can't unlock them. So you get some extra wrestlers. It's funny because when I played it, it's like the first person you see on it is Danhausen. And then also, when you bought the game, Cody Rhodes was part of it still, even though it was released like over a year after he departed.
So it is like a WWE game at this point.
Yeah. But the worst thing was is that on the version I had, Cody Rhodes wasn't on it. They've at some point got rid of him, but CM Punk still was on it. So
confusing. Did they take Punk off the game after Brawl Out?
No. He was on my version. But here's what's interesting. If they're going to continually update the game, does that mean they're going to continually remove wrestlers as well?
That's my question. That's exactly my question. They're going to start taking people away as they try to add other people.
Mm-hmm. Let's go on to what went wrong. We've got 2 what went wrongs, both from TNA's Lockdown pay-per-view this past weekend, as well as what went right to take us out as well. This first one is the TNA pile driver that honestly I'm shocked didn't end in tears. This is one of the most dangerous flubs that I've seen in quite a while from a name promotion. TNA Lockdown this past weekend, as I said, Mustafa Ali versus Jason Hotch, who I'm unaware of who Jason Hotch is. By the way, Stevie, it's top right. I can see it there on your menu. This, I don't recognize the name. He's a fairly young guy, still like 27 or something like that. Pretty much his entire career has been in Impact TNA. He's doing a top rope pile driver to Mustafa Ali. And my goodness me, Stevie, what went wrong?
Well, that right there to begin with. And we're even looking at balancing with the hand position right here. I'm trying to see how this is supposed to be safe for anybody. That's scary, dude. They did bring back it's the black version of the old blue cage from WWE.
Yeah, the best thing about that is it makes it easy for the audience to see the people within. Because any other color, and this is more, this is actually better for, like chain link fencing. If you paint it black, like it almost becomes invisible. So you can see the players within a lot easier.
Is that mostly because I know the boys aren't a fan of that cage, and especially going into it. But my guess would be, as far as what you just said, it disappears because there's no shine off the lights if it's like a matte black or something like that. Because the silver cage, especially the chain link one, kind of has reflections from the lights above and all around the arena. Do you think that's it?
Or maybe it absorbs light more black. I don't know.
That's what I mean. You can see through the light, cuts through the light like that. Oh man, this doesn't look good. Especially he's holding that part. So there's a 3-point like kind of balance issue right here as I zoom in. He's got to make sure he's here and then the grip here, but you're basically gripping it with one hand, trying to balance and then bring that around. And then my assumption is jump off and sit back in a very hard part of the ring in the corner right here. So let's see what happens. Why? Dude, why? What makes you think, oh my God, the camera didn't catch it, but man, once you got to do this, I just got to say this. First of all, don't even do it. But he brings his arms back like this. Now, once again, you could tear both your shoulders up like that, trying to protect yourself. And just the impact, James, and everybody out there, even if it's safe, you don't have to hit your head on the mat to feel the compression that way, the axial pressure on your spine. Just that impact and compression is enough. But let's slow it down. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, dude can't even, you're not able to kick your feet out in that direction, towards this way, I should say, to put your butt down to protect Ali's head. Oh my goodness. I got to pause it right. Dude, and look at his neck twist. Landing sideways. Is he okay?
Not heard anything different. It seems that this Jason Hotch fella, who's not a big guy himself, he's also X Division. He just sits on the top rope. It's like he doesn't even get enough distance to clear himself from the turnbuckle.
Well, it looks like he's just going down onto his feet. How's that a pile driver? You see what I mean? His feet are, good Lord. I don't want to watch it anymore, but see how his feet are touching the mat. That's already scary right there. His head's twisted sideways and he's coming down. The only thing I could say is if his chin was back or his body was straight down, his body's kind of shifting this way a little bit, but his head's doing that. His arms are coming down, which might be the only saving grace. But my goodness, man. What can you say? He's moving. Just what part of like the dude doing it, what part did he think he had it where were we ready to go? You weren't even ready to go at all because the second you're still holding on to the cage and your feet are not, like, once again, your feet are not being kicked out to put your butt on the mat so you can protect this dude's head. Do you think this is like a thing where it seems fine? And then when you get into this position, it's like, oh crap, I don't know if we can pull this off, but we've come this far. We got to see it through, which is absolutely wrong.
Do you think obviously they're going to have practiced this beforehand and maybe it went well somewhere else, but then with the cage in the way, I don't know what.
First of all, you shouldn't do it. Second of all, is my guess that they pulled out a crash pad and got a good take on the crash pad? Maybe. But then the distance of it, remember I explained it before about the crash pad? Say you're here. Here's the mat. Here's the crash pad. Look at all this distance right here. Do you see what I mean? You're gauging it completely different. Plus, the ring you can bounce on, but it's a lot harder than the crash pad. Who is the agent for this match that approved this? Who in management let this go? This here, protect them from themselves. You know what'd be cool? I would say this. You know what'd be even cooler? You both being healthy, happy, and alive after this match. Brutal. I have what went wrong? Everything from beginning to end. Stupid, stupid, stupid. And this isn't an old head like back in my day, because we did do stupid stuff. And every comment says ECW this and that and the other thing. And you know what? There is a pile driver out there. And I think we had it where Rhino did it through a table off the apron, right?
Yeah, well, I want to get to that in a minute. I just want to flesh out my theory, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Is that when this Jason Hotch guy falls out, why he lands on his feet instead of on his backside, is that he seems like he doesn't clear the turnbuckle, and it kind of jerks his feet backwards to a standing position again. And that's why he completely loses Mustafa Ali. Are you saying that's not the case?
Well, the first red flag to me that you're not going to jump off is that right there. You needed to keep your balance, grip them, stand up, and then it's got to be down and jump and out. This is a scary bump for the guy giving it too, not as scary as for Ali. But this shows me that we don't quite have it. And even up to when he goes, look, dude, he's going so he's got half a grip on Ali, which means Ali, in this part at least, is only 50% as safe as if he brings that arm around and grips it like Orndorff, like wrist to wrist. Then when he comes off here, he's not jumping. He's doing like I think Rhino did it that way, where he kicked one foot up, or like when they did the pile driver, Terry Funk would do it, or even, who else? Whenever Dusty or other people would do it, they would kick kind of one foot up in the air and land on one butt cheek. There's the style you see as one foot comes up. But the thing is, dude, his butt could have hit the turnbuckle, and I think it did. Look, see?
Mm-hmm.
His butt hits the turnbuckle, and then he lets go.
He doesn't let go of the cage, though, does he? Have you noticed?
No. Look at, what are you... Dude, this is just neglect to protect your opponent. It's Ali's fault for agreeing to it in the first place, but it's the other kid's fault because he's protecting himself. But dude, he's letting him just slide down and take whatever bump you're going to take. Look, he got, like, how are you protecting him? That's the scariest one right there. He's still completely upside down as this dude is landing on his feet. And then this. If he came down, like, even on the side of his head with the neck sideways, I mean, I hope he's okay, but it's 100% on the other dude. Do you see that now?
Hmm.
He let him go.
You want to bring up the Rhino video from ECW. He does it a couple of different times. One on Jasmine St. Clair that was a bit too lascivious for this show. This one is on Laurie Fullington, the Sandman's wife.
Yeah. So I remember him doing a ton. He would pile driver off the apron through a table here. She's already kicking up. That's still pretty close, man. Her head, But he took most of it. But look at the jump up. He's already out right there. He's moving, but her head, man, is close to being underneath, but he's got such big thighs. And look, she's still folded. It's still a tough bump. He protected her as much as he could. This is a little bit easier. Now we're not going to give grace to the other thing, but he's stepping off a flat, solid surface right here and able to jump staggered off and get those feet out. That corner, that turnbuckle, there's no room. Because number one, his butt hit the top turnbuckle. Number two, his legs didn't even do this. He just came down onto his feet. But yeah, he protected her and he's checking on her right now too.
You bring up the point there that Rhino has got bigger thighs. This other guy, he's weighing somewhere average about 210. And he's with somebody who is about the same size as him, right?
Yeah.
Rhino is shorter at like maybe 5'10", and he's like 70 pounds bigger and has huge legs. He's built like Jeff Cobb, or Jeff Cobb's built like him. Just a stocky, thick dude. I mean, if you're going to do something like this, do you at least need to make sure that your thighs are really big so you've got like some kind of grace point, to have less likelihood of an impact of the head on top, to the ring canvas?
Well, there's definitely an ergonomic thing to this. The thicker the thighs, like even Orndorff had huge legs. That gives you more space to protect and make it look real. Yeah, Rhino's got even bigger legs than Orndorff. So you can see how the right butt cheek and then the whole butt cheek comes down and then he lets her fall, but he doesn't let her go. Look at the grip Rhino has right here. That dude, one arm here, one arm, and then he lets go and lets Ali just slide down. I know I'm being cliche, but dude's got a family. He's got kids for real and needs to be there for them. And for TNA money, there's no money that it should be worth it. But for TNA money, dude, no way. You're already in a cage. You're in the WrestleMania 2 cage, ready to like go up against that. No, that's too much.
Well, from one what went wrong to another one from the same pay-per-view, TNA Lockdown, but this is at least way more harmless than the other one. This is Ryan Nemeth. Dare I say, is this kind of why he's known as Nick Nemeth's brother? Because I don't think Nick would have done this. And this isn't even the first time they did this in this match. I'll explain why in a minute. But Matt Hardy's going to give the twist of fate or whatever movie he's given to Ryan. And then he does this. Is this the fakest spot of 2026? Over to you, Stevie.
Thank you, James. Let's take a look. Twist of fate. And I'm going to put myself right on the table. You know what? You know why he did that? Because if Nick did it, Nick would have literally took the bump up, flew in the air, turned his body onto the table in one fell swoop. This is if Stevie Richards tried to wrestle like Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth. Oh my God.
We watched a few weeks ago the Young Bucks thing where someone took a 450 and then they just got up and walked off because they had to do the next thing.
You know what I would have said to Matt? If he was like, I need you right on that table, I would have had, because Jeff has done that with me and other people. He's done a twist of fate into a stunner. And then you can stand yourself up and peel yourself onto the table. You see the difference? This, though, is, he kind of bounce, turn, butt, prop, turn, up. It's like a nutcracker dance number. And on onto the table. And Matt's like, oh, you're already there.
He beat Matt up to his feet.
I think Matt was like, I appreciate the help, but I could have put you there. Now, you know what this ruins too? I know what he's trying to do, but you know what it ruins? Twist of fate, big bump, he's laid out. Matt stands up, looks around, scans the arena, points to the table, and Nick starts to kind of crawl up towards the table, and then Matt puts him on there. Do you see the difference? There's some people that just will never get it, though. Ryan seems to be a guy that's been very either stagnant, lateral movements, or maybe even regressed with time.
This was the second time. Because the first time Ryan put himself on the table and put himself through it.
No, I'm not aware of this.
So then they had to do it again. And I suspect this might be why Ryan so gingerly put himself on the table. I've not seen the entire match. But that is what I gather.
So basically put himself through the table earlier in the match before this.
Yes, by accident. And then this time, it's the second time he attempts to put himself on the table.
Rest in peace, Sabu. That used to be his biggest pet peeve, but it always happened. Or he'd do it, his arms would go out, he'd look around like, what the hell? He'd say a different thing.
What the heck?
Is he teaming up with Nick? Is that Nick in the corner?
Maybe.
That looks like him. He's watching it. He's like, oh man, He did it again.
I also, while scrolling through social media for this, someone else also posted, yeah, but is it more embarrassing than when Bully Ray did this? And this is from quite a few years ago with Jeff Hardy and Bully Ray, where he manages to place himself on a table, and I think there's still the argument, it's the second one. There you go. And yeah, people are now arguing whether which one looked more fake. So over to you, Stevie. This is a GIF, by the way, that I screen recorded.
Is this going to be a new segment called "Which is More Fake"? Could be.
We'll check the views for this.
Here we go.
That's worse.
Yeah, we have a winner. No, you know what makes it? What makes it is the hand movement and then the scooching onto the table and then lifting the right foot up. It's like he's getting into a pickup truck that's been lifted. I'm just going to sit here and nighty-night, everybody.
That's what you do when you're, like, asked to lie down on a doctor's bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, so we're just going in for the prostate exam, sir. Would you just mind just getting yourself comfortable on the bed, please?
Well,
He even puts his hands out
I
just to
tell
make
you what,
sure.
they got a fan with this guy. He loved it. All right. Which is more fake? Bubba Ray Dudley. There, we have a winner.
And for somebody who was such a massive star in the industry as well to do that.
No, you're never going to let that go.
Nope. I'm not.
Nope.
Okay, then. Nope. Okay, before we just move on from that, can you remember any other times, like with tables or anything like that, where just people just are so gingerly placing themselves where they need to be that it just becomes obvious?
I think there was a couple times in TNA where, Jeff Jarrett did it with Raven, and AJ kind of tried to put himself. Dude, Saturday night's main event. We only had like 70 seconds total for my match with Sabu, and the table, he put me on it, and the table just snapped down. And then he had to come off with the Arabian facebuster thing on me, and I was like, no. God, that's one of the only times I got my hands up to where Kevin Dunn had to cut it to a different angle on the replay. But that was like, if you want to talk about the worst possible place, so I was gingerly holding myself onto the table like this until I saw it, and I went, oh, no, screw it. I'm going to do this. But I think there's a List Mania episode for you. Worst table spots.
That takes way too much. Well, the worst one for me is still going to be Rob Van Dam, where his eyelid gets pulled off. Or
Bob with a scar, with a slice. They did Slim Jim table before it was a Slim Jim table.
Well, you saw some meat.
It was a Slit Bob table.
Be careful how you say that. Do you know what I thought you were going to say with the Saturday night's main event? Because we did the video on it not too long ago, Becky Lynch and Sol Ruka, where Sol Ruka was on the complete wrong side and just Becky Lynch for 20 seconds on the not hard cam, but focused on her just going, other way.
No, but it's not
other way.
That's not a table spot.
No, I know that, but it's still like the same positioning issue.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. It wasn't Becky's fault either.
It wasn't. She's a babyface now, by the way.
She's trying to take care of her. She could have just dropped the leg right across her chest and stomach, or two legs like Kofi does, but she wanted to. I admire that, of not getting your stuff in, of trying to turn. Now you could hop down and just be like, snatch her up, slam her in the other corner where you want her, and then do it from there.
Very quickly, are you happy that Becky Lynch is a babyface? Why is she a babyface?
Reasons.
Reasons. She saved Stephanie Vaquer. Why? Did.
But Stephanie Vaquer better watch it for some reason, for more reasons, right?
Reasons.
She kind of chastised her afterwards a little bit. I'm like, okay. She did the Goldberg soda machine, Tommy Dreamer spot, where she was in the middle of the ring with the wagging the finger at her.
I will say this for Becky, though. I like, instead of headbutting the vending machine, she should have done, like when Homer, like, hey, some people are just jerks. Stop that, Mr. Simpson. When he's being the elephant.
Yeah.
And he's just going, I like that headbutting she was doing to CM Punk. We're going to end on this. What went right? And this comes from Raw yesterday as we record this. This is Rey Fenix versus Dragon Lee. And this was actually going to be our watch-along for Patreon. And then we ended up watching another Tony Garea. But if you want to see the Tony Garea match, it's on the Stevie Richards Show Patreon. Links are in the description. But this, one of the better matches we've seen in quite a while. And this is going to lead to further thoughts on what a cruiserweight division could look like in WWE today, if they decided to go that route as well. But Stevie, over to you. What went right?
Thank you very much, James. We did talk about it on the pre-show of it's starting to get some momentum and it gets a feel of the cruiserweight division from Nitro. And we talked, do you get that feeling that there's positive momentum? You just said do it more times on every show, but it's got very much a special attraction. People are starting to get with the style of what these matches bring. Do you agree with that?
Okay, right. When you say Nitro, I'll tell you what I think about Nitro. I think about 12 matches a show are like 3 of them cruiserweights. But the other thing that I always think about with Nitro is that the cruiserweights had their own style. The old guys had their own style. The main eventers had their own style. They were like very clear divisions, and I love the clear divisions. They've mixed them up constantly, but the divisions were really important. And you haven't had that with WWE for so long now. And I like the idea of divisions in wrestling. I don't think it makes sense to have Javon Evans and Big Bill, Big Cass wrestling all the time. Obviously they've got their own issue. But I loved the Cruiserweight division because it was a division. And they had like 30 people in it as well. So it made all the sense.
It was like almost an entirely different company, kind of like the Cruiserweight Classic and 205 Live, which is what I think they wanted, stuff like we're watching with Chad Gable and Pentagon, and now with Ray Phoenix and Dragon Lee. That's what they were hoping for with those, I think, but they didn't really. But for some reason, I think it's even more impressive and even more of a what went right that you just said the styles kind of meld together on these shows with WWE now, and it still stands out. That's what I'm saying. It's quite an accomplishment. So let's take a look. Oof, that was me as Kenny Omega in Fire Pro doing the dive over that. And then right to there. I've never seen it done like that. Have you?
No.
Just
the
a flip onto the table and not breaking the table. That's like should be on the signature of the show when they started on the Titantron. Dude, you know what's most impressive? Look what Dragon Lee did. Told the referee to separate the ropes. Excellent. Right there is a what one right on itself. So let's go. This is slow-mo once again there. Oh, what a camera angle. What a camera angle on this. That's amazing.
He is turning so late as well, because I was trying to figure out in the initial how he was like as a ball getting through the ropes, and he's not. He's almost like swanton diving through.
Well, you know what? He's doing it perfectly, and it's scary right here because you don't know if you're going to be able to tuck in time. With this rotation, if he had tucked sooner, number one, your feet are going to get caught in the ropes back here. You see that? Number two, when he flips, it's back to chest. If he flipped more and say his head was up here and his butt or his thighs or even the back of his knees hit Ray Phoenix, guess where he's going? Straight down there on his head. This is perfect because it's almost like the cannonball from Kevin Owens in the corner. Boom, right there. And actually a really smooth bump onto that by Ray Phoenix. They must have done this in Mexico. That's my guess. If this is the first time they're doing it, there's a referee again. I think this, when they do the Braun Breaker Spear, when they do all these other things, I love this camera angle, don't you? This is like fan cam, but professionally done. You know what's missing from this, though? The people aren't like, they're kind of muted. Wouldn't you be jumping your feet off of this? Are they that sensitized to the high impact of this?
Maybe. This should have been the opener, man.
Dude, they're on their feet. I'm not on their feet. They're on their butt here. Look. Dude,
But
you
they
pay
see
all
so
that
many
money, I'd be
dives in every
jumping.
match.
You pay all that money, I'd be jumping up and down like this even during promos. I'd get my money's worth. What were you gonna say?
You see so many dives every single week. I mean, at some point, like when you see a really, really spectacular one like that, or something, JD McDonough would do, they just don't stand out as much as they should do. Why are you doing that?
I'm a child.
Is Dragon Lee just like, as far as like the most ridiculous like dives and everything, is he like the safest hands in the company?
He's so underrated. It's almost like Dragon Lee. It's almost like he's under the radar. Do you agree with that?
Totally. I mean, like when he was with AJ Styles briefly and they were tag champions, it almost felt like underdog guy helping AJ Styles, you know what I mean?
He was with the LWO too. That kind of like, I think, took something away from him. No, he's incredibly talented. I don't know.
I hate luchadors, man. For the most part, they just don't see them as stars apart from Penta and Ray.
Here's the thing with Dragon Lee. You got a crop of great Lucha Libre talent. You got Pentagon, you got Ray Phoenix. You also have Dominic Mysterio as a heel that can translate to the American audience. But why do they sleep on this guy? Where's Road Dogg's tweet when you need it? Don't sleep on this guy.
Yes, but instead of the Ass Boys.
But why do they sleep on Dragon Lee? Is it because Penta and Ray Phoenix and even Chad Gable and now Ludwig guys are kind of look more prominent, or they're the novelty? But this guy's about as steady, as consistent, as safe, while also doing stuff like this. You can say the dives are desensitized and you've seen them, but I've never seen a dive like that, done like that without breaking the table. They said, I am the table. I am the table. They are the table.
What about Ray Phoenix? I mean, that's another guy that WWE is sleeping on. Like Penta went first. He was the bigger of the two. I think he's the older of the two as well. Like he's got more charisma. But Ray Phoenix is really good as well, and he was just like another body on SmackDown for quite a long time. He's just there. And now, finally, they're going to have Penta versus Phoenix next week, I think, on Raw. And then when Penta obviously wins that match, he's going to go face Roman Reigns in Mexico City. But are they sleeping on Ray Phoenix as well?
Yeah, I think it's... WWE has a problem, except for the bloodline of, we already got one of those, we already got two of those, we can't push them all at once and make them seem different and present it differently. And Penta, I'm glad they still book him and protect him, and obviously that is to go to the Penta versus Roman Reigns at AAA, and that's a match I want to see. I'm sure you want to see it too.
No, it's on Raw.
Oh, it's on Raw. I'm sorry. I thought they were going to AAA. Because weren't they teasing him going to AAA with Rey Mysterio backstage that time?
They were for this tournament. It is Raw going to Mexico City.
Oh, it's on Raw. I'm sorry. So you're still in Mexico. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. This is the best problem creatively to have. You have three guys that are awesome, not to mention Chad Gable with Ludwig as El Grande Americano. And then what they're not doing with Dominic, this is like you said, we are now at a point where why can't we have a cruiserweight division? Why can't we have a differing division setup? Even super heavyweights, dude. We were always talking about that on the Russo show. Like Braun, Brock, who else was on that? Rusev, all these different, Sheamus could be even in there. They're these super heavyweights that's hard hitting and big impact, a certain style on its own. Then we can't even talk about the tag team division.
Oh, well, we can't name the new team that's debuted.
Do you know what's funny about Raw? That's about it.
Do you know what's funny about Raw is that they never showed a package video on whoever this team was. As far as I can tell, I still don't know what the names are. But we did have a hype package for Zilla Fatu, who debuted on NXT. Wouldn't you know it? Bloodline.
I told you, there's more of them. There's more than just Zilla. There's tons of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, here's what I would say about the Cruiserweight division, for what it's worth, is, one, why do Raw and SmackDown have two separate divisions? You know what I mean? Why are they, for the most part, blocked off one another? It's never made sense to me. Two, you could have, Fraxium. You could have had the Motor City Machine Guns. You could have had, Ilja Dragonov. He's quite light for what it is. There are loads of people who could make a Cruiserweight division, but it's the way the formats are with the shows. Instead of having 4 or 5 matches for a SmackDown or a Raw, have 8. You don't even need stories for most of these matches. Just throw them out there, give them 8 minutes. They'll entertain the crowd more likely than they won't do. And it makes for a better show all around. That's why Nitro was so great. Because you never knew what you were going to get. Sometimes it's just a random hodgepodge of Jim Duggan versus Cyclope. No one ever thought, hey, maybe these styles won't work. Nope, get out there. Just try it. I loved that. Even if it went wrong, I loved the fact that they just try and just see what happens.
Isn't that the thing about effort in wrestling? There's lack of effort in a lot of ways to see what happens. It's so controlled.
Yeah.
I was going to say this too. I keep saying this. I don't know if we have a counter since we started the show. And the brand split, for a bunch of different reasons, you can get marquee matches and rematches throughout that week of TV from SmackDown to Raw. Also, if you aren't going to do a lot of house shows, or if you're not going to do any, now everybody on the roster, besides having new matches, fresh matches, they also get 2 matches a week rather than 1. That makes a big difference over time.
An LA Knight is not the guy who can carry Raw. They've made sure of that. Raw has no superstars. Roman Reigns is only there once every 3 weeks, and he's the champion. Everyone else is on SmackDown. You need to have that revolving thing. They don't have enough superstars at the moment.
Why is it? Here we go at LA Knight again, and yes, we're big fans. Why is LA Knight always the one that's someone that debuts or needs to get more heat? It's like, there he is right there. Get that guy in the red and yellow. By the way, he's wearing red and yellow. I know it's Slim Jim colors, but it could be other things.
Brother.
You
got me, brother.
They're getting them every week.
Hey, well, at least they're getting Solo Sikoa as well now.
Sure, that guy, take a bunch away from that guy. He'll still get himself over, but like now they're going to be in a tag team feud with those dudes. And now Royce Keys is a leader or a manager. All right, we're getting off topic with that, but please do more of this. This is awesome, as they would say.
Yep. Everybody, that's the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We are out every single Thursday. I need to speak to you, actually, just afterwards, because I'm away for a couple of weeks, so we need to figure out how we're going to deal with that. We are going to be out every single Thursday, hopefully. We're going to be doing Sunday night's Heat in a week and a half, or whatever it is, for a review.
It's Sunday main event, not Sunday Night Heat.
Whatever it is. Stevie Knight's main event. So we're going to be doing Stevie Knight's main event in a week and a half. I don't know if that's going to be an extra show or not. I suspect not. But we didn't even talk about Lil Yachty versus Baron Corbin. We should have talked about that, but we'll just see how that comes out, I guess. So fresh clips on the YouTube channel every single day. New episodes out every single Thursday, usually every single Thursday on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube. And now over to Stevie to thank everybody as well as the Patreon supporters.
Yeah, no pressure on a solo episode without James, but I'll do my best. But thank you, everybody, for watching episode 112 of the Stevie Richards Show. If you want to consider supporting us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/Stevie Richards. Watch-alongs, show notes, show before the show where we talk about wrestling or just anything but wrestling. And yes, finally, once I get the monitor mounts and everything I need, because I have too many monitors, there will be an upcoming behind-the-scenes tour of how we produce the Stevie Richards Show in an updated fashion. So please, that's all part of Patreon. We appreciate the support there. As well as here on YouTube, check out the James Romero channel as well. His solo stuff as he approaches ever so strongly, strength to strength, towards 100,000 subscribers. So once again, thank you for watching episode 112. Before James says something, see you next week. Episode, 113 next week of the Stevie Richards Show.
Oh, I forgot to mention ESPN's up in their thing, $2 a month.
James is ending this episode with all the good news for everybody out there.